start of the Tour of Britain has obviously grabbed the imagination of the local people. A large crowd has gathered here in Newcastle today, and indeed we expect to see large crowds lining the route for the next 6 days. All in all, the riders will take in a total of 8 cities, from the start here in Newcastle to the finish at the city of Westminster on Sunday. First stage today is from Newcastle to the city of York, a total of 120 miles. First this morning, though, it's the prologue time trial. Now, for those of you new to cycling, the prologue time trial is all about sheer speed. It's the rider against the clock. It's a very tight course this morning, a total of 1.7 miles. A lot of tight corners, and the sting in the tail, well, that's this long climb uphill to the finish below Graves Memorial. It's a day for the funny bikes, because today the seconds won or lost can have a severe effect on the overall result of the race. The procedure then, the riders come down, they sign in, they click in, take a deep breath, and thereafter it's all about sheer speed.
And among the early starters this morning was Rob Holden, the youngest rider in the race at just 20 years of age, a first-year professional, and his time was something of a shock for all the rest to follow, because when he hit the finishing line, it was the best time recorded so far. And there we are, the situation, 1/3 of the field gone. Rob Holden on top, 3 minutes 47 seconds, John Clay, and in third place Darrell Webster. And then came Robert Miller. He put in quite a burst. Remember him on Gouzenage in the Tour de France. Not a lot to cry about here for Robert. It wasn't a great ride, and like Ronan Pensek here, they didn't have a lot to show for this early burst around the streets of the city of Newcastle. A long way to go though for the top men. Pensek, 7th in the Tour de France, finding the hill up Grey Street quite a problem. And then out on the course from our helicopter, way down below, the lone figure of Malcolm Elliott, and news reaching our ears that Elliott was recording the best time at half distance. Elliott, something of a specialist in the prologue time trial. Everybody in Newcastle was waiting to see what he could do. Down the quayside towards the Tyne Bridge, Elliott was still up on the best time of the day, set by Rob Holden. All he had to do now was finish well up the hill along Grey Street. And this is Elliott now coming up the hill towards the finish, recording the best time so far today. Elliott now being urged on by the crowd, something of a specialist in prologue times. Look at that, 3 minutes 35.5. Malcolm Elliott is on top of the table. And now we're further back down the course here. We're looking at Mark Walsham. He won't know that Malcolm Elliott has finished with the best time so far. Mark Walsham, another man from Sheffield like Malcolm Elliott. He's trying to match the time of 3:35.5, the British Circuit Race champion. Not quite doing it, 3:44.1, and that has given Mark Walsham, as you can see here, the second best time so far, pushing Holden out into third slot. Well, Chris Lillywhite, the king of the mountains in the milk race this year, now out on the course, and I wonder what he thinks of Grey Street today, because it really is quite a climb, and all the riders recording good times around the course have not been finishing with the best times because of this climb. Just on the brow there, the finish. Chris Lillywhite, his ambition, not just the time trial, but of course the mountains, 3:51.9. Not a bad time for Lillywhite. Watching here, Sean Yates finish, remember him in the Tour de France this year, one or two people's favourite for a good time. 3:44.7, that will go down as the third best time. Down the quayside again now, the Tyneside Tyne Bridge in view. Then there's a sharp right turn for Sean Kelly. Kelly, of course, not doing quite what he would have liked in the Tour de France this year, and his face telling us the story that today this 1.7 miles race is really very, very hard indeed. Short, fast burst of speed. Not everybody's cup of tea, but they've got to do a good time to make sure that they start this afternoon in a good position for the climbs. Sean Kelly still aiming for that record time so far by Malcolm Elliott of 3:35.5. Great deal of support for Sean, the world's #1, very, very popular rider indeed. Now the climb of Grey Street. Kelly chasing that time, 3:35.5. He wasn't far away from it at the halfway check. Crowd here in Newcastle enjoying the sight of the world's number one. He's held that since 1983, since computer rankings began. Nobody has ever been world's number one except Sean Kelly. My goodness me, this is hurting. Using the disc wheels, as all the riders do in these time trials, the funny bikes they call them here. Now Kelly comes up towards the line, the time to beat, 3:35.5. Big burst from Kelly, 3:54.4, it's not good enough. And now the world champion, the rainbow colours of Stephen Roach, the colours we haven't seen too much of in world cycling this year. Stephen Roach out of cycling virtually all season after last year winning the world title, the Tours of France and Italy. Stephen Roach dogged by a recurrence of a knee injury, and now he really wants to impress in the Kellogg's Tour of Britain and prove to himself he's in with a chance of winning the world title again in a couple of weeks in Belgium. There you see the long straight along the quayside. Now we're up Grey Street here. Stephen Roach, I think you know, is coming back to form. He's hinted it with a couple of good rides in France and Spain before he came here. Nothing sensational, a 6th place in Bordeaux. Just a little bit of a warning perhaps that the form is coming back after the injury. Has it all cleared up? This week's certainly going to tell us that. And now Roach comes up towards the line, still looking to beat Elliott's time, which has withstood the passage of time all day today, and it does again. 3:49.6 for Roach. And the man who started out behind Roach is now down on the quayside. Last year's winner, Joey McLaughlin. He's won the honour of starting the final man today, the defending Kellogg's champion. And like Roach too, he's suffering from a knee injury, which appears to be on the mend. Well, this has been a most difficult course here. 1.7 miles, in fact, it turned out to be this morning. A very difficult twisting course. It's called for a lot of skill, and I suspect that's why Malcolm Elliott has done a better time than his more illustrious teammate Sean Yates, because it's called for a great deal of nerve on the tight bends. Not a straight out time trial course at all, and of course here on Grey Street, the sting in the tail. So Joey McLaughlin now fighting to record a good time that'll take him out on the road to York this afternoon as a challenger in the Kellogg's Tour. You mustn't think the prologue time trial is a throwaway event, because once in the milk race, the split between first and second was 5 seconds, and believe me, that was the split 12 days later. So McLaughlin racing up now towards the line, still to beat Elliott's time. 3:35.50 is the time that McLaughlin is aiming for. Look at the face on him. 3:49.40 is a very good time, and that's going to put Elliott up amongst the leaders. Here's the result then. Malcolm Elliott is the winner this morning. Mark Walsham is second. Sean Yates gets third. Holden is fourth. McLaughlin does well here with 6th place. Roach will be well satisfied with 7th. And Keith Reynolds there in 10th spot.
Now, the main feature of this first stage are 3 climbs. First, it's Birkbrough, that's a Category 2 climb. Then it's on to Castleton, that's Category 3. And finally for the riders, the toughest test of all, Rosedale Chimney. 1,500 feet to the peak, but to get there, they face a sheer climb. This is where we expect the pack to be split. So, as the large crowd gather here, we hand you back now to Phil Liggett.
So the riders rolling out here of Newcastle upon Tyne. About to anyway, 79 of them. A little bit of a hard luck story indeed for Nigel Blore, who fell off in a race last Friday in Sheffield, and it was only found out over the weekend. In fact, he'd fractured a bone in his arm, was unable to start this morning's time trial. That's really very, very sad indeed. 79 riders then as we go out across the Tyne Bridge here. And the race at the moment neutralised as the riders make their way out towards Gateshead to the race official start, and it's from there that the 120 miles to York will start to be counted down. Steve Dowse and the Rally Banana team on the right of the picture there, making his way out over the bridge. And there's Gateshead Stadium, home of Brendan Foster of the past, and of course Steve Cram, who we hope will be bringing gold back from Seoul this summer. Just before the riders finally break, a little bit of a repair job going on here for rider number 21, Sean Kelly. the leader of the cast team. Final adjustments before the Kellogg's Tour of Britain finally breaks for the first full road racing stage. We're heading down now towards Seaton Carew, the first real point of the race this year for us. This is the first TV time sprint. Let me quickly explain these to you, because there are time bonuses for the first 3 riders over the line of 3 seconds, 2 seconds and 1 second. Malcolm Elliott will want to be in on the action now, because his lead after this morning's time trial, just 9 seconds. Elliott in the yellow jersey here on the left, going for the sprint, and it looks to me as though he's making light work of the sprint. He's being challenged here by Nick Barnes, but Malcolm Elliott takes the 3 seconds. Barnes gets second place, and it was Henri Manders there who gets a 1 second time bonus for third slot. Now we're out onto the moors, and we're going to see now the first climb. This is the second category climb of Berk Brow. All the riders, by the way, have come to the climb together. Joining me today, Paul Sherwen, who has ridden the Tour de France 7 times. Paul, I don't think you were too surprised to see the riders take it easy early on, were you?
Well, not really, because of the situation this morning where all the riders had to get up very early and eat before the prologue, and it made for a very complicated day for the riders, some trying to eat 3 hours before, and I think that's probably why in the first couple of hours we find them not really taking much racing and waiting for the major decisions to be made on these climbs later on in the day.
Well, there's Thomas Wegmüller from Switzerland, a member of Paul Sherwen's team, and his memories go back to May this year when he was second in the Paris-Roubaix Classic, and he would have won that race, I think it's fair to say that, had a plastic bag not blown into his gears and jammed them up in the last 100 metres of that great race. What a tragedy that was for him. But his bad luck was the joy of Dirk de Mol of Belgium, who went away and won the day. So Thomas Wegmüller drops back. Chris Lillywhite in the blue quarter sleeves there of the Rally Banana team, a rider who's won the King of the Mountains this year in the milk race and in the Circuit de la Sarthe in France, and last year, of course, the same prize went his way in the Nissan Classic in Ireland. And Paul, let's face it, you're the manager of Chris Lillywhite. Is this going to be one of his objectives this week?
Well, obviously one of his major objectives has got to be the King of the Mountains competition. It's a competition he's already won in the milk race previously this year and in the Nissan Classic at the end of last year. So it'll be one of his major objectives, but hopefully he'll probably try and get into the first 10 overall if he can.
All right, well, let's see how it goes on then. We've got Adrian Timmis on the back of the bunch there. There's Lillywhite, the rider we were just talking about. Keeps the pace nice and tempo style, and I must say no attacks coming on this first climb. This lower second category climb is not the most difficult. It is quite steep, but it is a main road climb, a good surface on the tarmac, so the riders are not really in a position where they can launch a lot of attacks, and they know, of course, the steep climb of Rosedale Chimney is still to come.
Well, Lillywhite's in a good position here. He's in second place as they come up to the top of this climb, and he'll know this climb, having gone up it before in a race called the Saltburn Grand Prix, which is in this area. He's waiting there in second place till he can see the flag with 200 metres to go before he launches his attack.
Well, that's Noel Shostek on the left of our picture here, and it looks to me as though we've got Jan-Erik Oostergaard having go. Is this Gianetti trying to go clear here? Lillywhite certainly taking his wheel very quickly. No, it is Oostergaard who goes clear, another new professional from the Belgian Isoclass team, as he makes the pace now a little bit hard for everybody, and we must add, perhaps a little bit hard for himself as well. Lillywhite's done well to move across here to pick up this wheel. This is exactly how he started his campaign in the milk race, and now he's going for the line here with Mauro Gianetti, Switzerland rider rather, with the Italian sounding name. And Lillywhite checking out just how it's going, and it seems to be going very well as he comes up towards the top of the climb here. He's got the gap on Gianetti, and Lillywhite comes clear. So an excellent start to his campaign. Chris Lillywhite over the top of Berk Brow first, Gianetti in second place, and Oostergaard gets a third slot. Malcolm Elliott still happily ensconced in the centre of this bunch as we now make our way out towards the second climb on the moors today. And this is an attack by Henri Abadie. If you can think back to the Tour de France on the road up to Évreux this year, this man was wearing the King of the Mountains jersey in the Tour de France and on the attack for the stage win at Évreux. He lost it on the line. You may remember the almost dead heat then between Acacio da Silva and Stephen Rooks, who went on to finish second. But look at the damage now that Aberdeen has caused on the climb of the moors. We're heading out now between Birkbrow and over towards Castleton. Look at this, Paul. These are the echelons you don't see too often in British cycling, do you, when the riders split like this?
Well, this goes to show the difference between how the climb before didn't split the race up, but now that they're going up a false flat, the wind from the side is breaking the race to pieces. You can see riders struggling across, trying to get up to the next group as we come up to the front group here, and you can see that it's really not the climb, but it's the false flat with the wind across these moors that's made the big damage in the race today.
Well, there's 37 riders reportedly from our Radio Tour motorcycles. Driven, by the way, this year by former British champion Nigel Dean, who's telling us that, in fact, we have a group of 37. This is Marshal Gaillon, who's ahead of them all, and this is Aberdeen, who's ahead of everybody, including Gaillon. He's just checking out to see what's going on, and you can look back there. It looks to me as though Gaillon may have been swept up. I didn't catch a glimpse of him, but Aberdeen is having a go. So the main field are under pressure, and a lot of riders, and I have to tell you that Mark Walsham has had a puncture and is in the back split of this, and remember, he was second this morning in the time trial.
But obviously Aberdeen, coming back to the front of the race here, has succeeded in doing what he wanted to do. He's managed to, as he's just been caught here, I don't think he's too bothered, because he set out to do what he wanted to do over that false flat. He set the race on fire, and he split the field into this front group and several chasing groups as we look down now.
Well, we're now heading on towards the real heart of the North Yorkshire Moors, the beautiful little village of Castleton, as the riders now make this 50-mile-an-hour descent, and they've made their first selection in the Kellogg's Tour of Britain. Some 30 riders now clear of the field, and as far as we know, none of the pre-race favourites have missed the split. And if they haven't, Paul, it's going to mean that the pressure's going to go on.
Well, the pressure will come on because all these riders have isolated themselves. The one or two of missing teammates. So we've got Sean Yates on the front here, followed I think in second place by Stephen Roach, in third place Robert Miller. I think it's going to be one of the strongest teams of this year's Tour of Britain, because they've got a lot of strength in depth, and they'll probably work for each other a lot more than they will have done.
Well, we're now on the climb of Castleton, and the organisers have given us a third category ranking. I have to say, I thought that was a bit mean, because it's a very long climb. It climbs right through the village. The crowd here have been camping out all day. Tour de France atmosphere as we came through the town. And in fact, it looks as though Sean Yates is finding himself a new discipline in world cycling. He's becoming something of a climber as well.
Well, Sean Yates here actually, when you think that he's started the day in third place overall, he's here at the front riding as a teammate to Malcolm Elliott. In second place there is Giannetti, waiting for the next King of the Mountains classification to come, and there just on his right shoulder is Chris Lillywhite from Rally Banana.
Giannetti turning out to be the challenger for the mountains competition today, along with Chris Lillywhite. We're coming up towards the top of the climb now. Lillywhite's going to have a go for this one as well. Remember, he beat Giannetti up the climb at Birkbrow. And there we go. Lillywhite now really grits his teeth and goes for it. Giannetti tries to get his wheel. I don't quite know what Lillywhite said to him then. Almost as if it was a victory salute, I think. He goes over the top. Lillywhite first. Giannetti gets second place. There's confirmation of that. And Stephen Hodge having a good day from Australia. He's in third slot. And now for the big one, because we've had two little testers, the hors d'oeuvre to the major climb of the day. And Dave Mann here, who is trying to bridge the gap with his teammate Dave Rayner. Now I think, in fact, Paul, Mann came back from the front group to try and get your man, may I add, Dave Rayner, back up with the leaders.
Well, Dave Rayner's missed this move, and Dave Mann has dropped back to help drag him up there.
Well, that's a good move indeed, Paul, but that's what they faced. They're going to join at the wrong time. There's the climb of Rosedale Chimney, and it really is a terrible, terrible climb. The riders on it now, the leaders here on the climb. Joey McLaughlin on the left of our picture, and it's good to see McLaughlin in the front of the action on this climb. He's going to be delighted with that, even if it is looking a little bit hard for him. As they start the climb here now, it is an absolutely vicious climb. 1 in 3 at his steepest point, and the crowds are absolutely enormous on this climb. There you can see it, it lies on the hillside, going out over the top. McLaughlin doing a storming ride up here. Rather like we remember last year on the tumble climb down in South Wales, and McLaughlin put up a good ride there, even if he did tire a little bit towards the summit, but it's a good climb.
Well, look at Joey here, really suffering to get the gears round. The riders have put massive gears on today. For the people who know a little bit about cycling, they're using 26-tooth sprockets and 42-tooth chainrings at the front, which is really a very small gear for this kind of climb.
I think one or two of them weren't listening this morning, Paul, because they're obviously in all sorts of trouble at the back of the race as they now make the way up this climb. You see these riders climb up here, and they always amaze me how they keep such a fine rhythm going. Look at this crowd here. They've come out here literally in their thousands today. Estimated 5,000 people are on this climb today as the riders try to come through the field.
Well, a lot of the riders here at the back of the bunch here, obviously overgeared and suffering on the right-hand side there. Serge Demier has just climbed off to walk up, and taking one of the riders from BH here, taking his shoes off to climb up the mountain.
That was poor old Eduardo Ruiz, who's decided to make a walk. Rather surprising, a man from Spain. I thought he might have been better equipped for this climb. As we start to go towards the top. Gianetti then, who's turning out to be something of a sensation today on the mountains for the Swiss team. Weinmann, it's a new team this year, running on a budget of nearly £3 million, and so I suppose they should turn out some top riders. There's the long climb, and there are all the parked cars of the spectators, thankfully parked on one side of the road only to leave some room for the riders. These are the leaders now making the way up. Well, remember, we came to the bottom of this climb with something like 25 riders. Now we're seeing Gianetti here ride them off his wheel towards the top, and it looks to me now it'll depend on the position of Lillywhite, but Lillywhite is no longer in this group as far as we know. He was dropped at the start of the climb, so Gianetti has shed Lillywhite, the winner of the two previous climbs, and that's going to mean, if it's true, that Gianetti will be the king of the mountains and wearing that polka dot jersey tomorrow when he gets down to York. 80 miles covered now, the riders facing the best part of 40 miles before the finish in York. And this is now Gianetti, who's done a terrific ride here to go completely ahead of the field. And it looks to me, Paul, as though he's hardly out of breath.
Well, he's suffered at the first part of the climb when the riders were a little bit overgeared, but he's got a very good rhythm going now. And he could well be one of the finds of this year's Tour of Britain, because he's got a fine pedalling style, sitting comfortably on the saddle, just ticking those gears over.
And this is the chaos behind. You can see the crowd a little bit better from this shot. The red jersey there is Rob Holden, at 20 years of age, the best rider under 23. He has been in this break. Just ahead of Rob Holden there is Rob Miller, the Scottish climber, who did that storming ride in Guzet-Neige in the Tour de France, only to miss the final turn and lose that stage in the Tour de France. Right at the top of the hill now. Gianetti then takes maximum points on the steepest climb of the Tour of Britain so far this week. And he's really now going to believe that Switzerland isn't the only place with mountains, as we now will begin the descent as we head off the moors and down towards the finish. There's the small group, and there is the result of that climb. Gianetti gets 12 points, Stephen Hodge having a great day second, Aberdeen third. Malcolm Elliott, the yellow jersey, has put up a storming ride to finish fourth, but just look at this now at the back of the race. The leaders made it look easy. Now we're being treated to Tour de France scenes here. Spectators are trying to push the riders up the climb. I suspect that the judges will be doling out the penalties tonight. So you see the riders here now under pressure. Number 42 is Marnix Lemire, a prolific winner on the flat, but I'm afraid he's going to be nowhere near the front at York today. Belgian rider. Number 30, Ian Sanders going through. Number 60 was Ian Fagan here on the left of the picture. And now you can feel the gradient through the legs of these riders as they really take the punishment on the climb. And Stuart Coles, number 18, a Welshman from Glamorgan. And a helping hand there for number 57, Graham Jones, at 20th. And Coles has dismounted. Coles has actually got off his bike here, and he's just about managing to walk around the spectators. So that's a sad sight indeed. Meanwhile, we're back up with the leaders, and it's Gianetti who has been caught by some 18 riders here. This will give us a front group of 19 men, and I think this group is now going to go clear.
Well, look here as we look down from the helicopter, all these riders sharing the pace setting at the front. back down onto the flat after the climb, and we can see the riders sharing the pace, trying to build up as big a lead as they can, because they know that this year's Kellogg's Tour can be disputed between them.
Well, we're on the bottom road now, and all of these riders, despite the fact they are in separate teams, now working together because they've thinned this race out from 79 riders this morning to just 19 riders. Marshall Gayon from the Toshiba team here, Sean Kelly, his ally for the moment, and the riders now heading out towards Helmsley as we go along the bottom road off the moors, and this is beginning now to look like an excellent breakaway indeed. And I think you know that the way these riders have split the field, they went so slowly at the beginning of the race, but once the climbs began, the selection was made very, very quickly indeed. Thomas Wegmuller slips away as we're left here with Mark Madio. Rob Holden is one of the fives today, 20 years of age. Tremendous ride by Holden to keep that red jersey of best young rider. Robert Miller, the riders now approaching Helmsley. We're in the outskirts of Helmsley here now. This is the third sprint of the day. Elliott scored very, very well so far today. Big sprint here now. Malcolm Elliott, the yellow jersey, again in the thick of the action. Sean Yates is the man doing the work for him. Yates brings him out. Elliott gets it. Yates is second, and third is McLaughlin. There's the situation as they come into York. This leading group containing Gianetti, Malcolm Elliott, Pedersen, Mark Madio, Rob Holden. In fact, in all, 19 riders in this leading group now as they enter the city of York. Then we'll go through the finishing line, and then they'll face 5 full circuits of the finishing lap of the city. What a climax this has been. These 19 men coming together over the final 40 miles of the racing today, and it really has been quite a selection. And a surprise, but a delightful one, Stephen Roach, the world champion, on the front of this breakaway, proving to us all now he's back in the sport this season with a vengeance. And look at this pace-making by Stephen Roach. And the lovely backdrop here of York Minster. This has got to be one of Britain's prettiest cities. And the crowd all the way around, and it's the Fagor boys, this team of a mixture of nationalities. The team itself is a Spanish sponsor based in France and being led by an Irishman. Work that one out.
Strange thing today, Phil, is that of the Fagor team, it's all the English-speaking riders are in the front. The one French rider, Bernard Richard, he was left behind on one of the earlier climbs. We've got all the English-speaking riders of this Fagor team as Stephen Roach comes through again into first place with Sean Yates in second, and Malcolm there in third place, just tucked in behind them.
Noticeable too, Paul. McLaughlin has come up there into fourth place. That's the rider you can just catch a glimpse of in the white jersey with the blue band on. He's up into fourth place, and he's getting confidence as this race goes on indeed. This looks to me now as though we're coming round towards the fourth and final TV time sprint here. Roach is going to take this on the line in 3 seconds, or was it Elliott? Very close indeed. Elliott was right up there, 4 laps to go now. But Elliott again in the bonuses, and surely that's done enough for him now to keep his yellow jersey at least today. The line all together, one rider we may catch a glimpse of as there he is, Rob Holden is in a little bit of difficulty here. The youngest rider in the race at 20 years of age put up a tremendous performance today, and the Bilton team must be really proud of him. Sean Yates taking his turn as the man at the front to keep the pace high to stop the attacks coming. Roach has dropped back into second place. Robert Miller has come up, another Fagor man, into third slot, and the yellow jersey of Elliott in fourth. You can't have a better team than that, Paul.
Well, they've got all the riders up in the front here, keeping it very, very fast, and you can see how much of a risk they're taking trying to get round these corners. The roads are very, very narrow, and the only thing to do to keep out of danger is to keep at the front, get your team to keep the pace high and stay out of danger, because the danger is at the back when the riders are accelerating out of the corners.
It's a tricky little circuit, this one, and it's got 1 or 2 cobbled surfaces as well, but it's been a marvellous sunny day, not a hint of rain. The moors have never looked better, and the riders might not agree, but to everybody watching the tour today, it's been marvellous. And now Sean Yates trying to bring it down to a good finish. He'll be thinking too of that rider in yellow, Malcolm Elliott. They could be celebrating tonight with the yellow jersey hanging at the foot of the bed of Malcolm Elliott. He's done a lot today. He won the prologue, then he was in action in the TV time sprints for the small time bonuses. As it's turning out, they have been imperative in the search to keep the yellow jersey tonight. Well, Sean Kelly's not too far down this line. He's got a yellow jersey on, not the leader's yellow jersey, by the way. That's his Spanish cast team colours. And he may well be taking advantage of this high speed, and he'd probably be thinking, let them do the work, and we'll see what I can do when it comes to the finish. We'll see, because Sean Kelly not too far away from the action, and with all the experience one can need in world cycling, Kelly has the lot. A nice view there of the York Minster from our helicopter position. And now back down with the brave men of world television, the riders who shoot these boys from the cameras at the back of motorcycles. They are the bravest men in the world in my book, and they get some terrific shots. And now you can see the whole field, or the leading field, the men that really have established themselves now as the men in the Kellogg's Tour of Britain this week. They're going to follow each other around now, man for man, as we make our way down through the Pennines over the next few days into the Cotswolds, and of course finally to Westminster. And certainly it's not safe for Malcolm Elliott. Even if he does keep his yellow jersey today, it'll only be by a handful of seconds. King of the Mountains confirmed, by the way, that is Giannetti. He'll wear the polka dot jersey tomorrow morning, having won the climb of Rosedale Chimney and finished second on the other two big climbs of the day. There we are, one lap to go to the finish, and they're going to come towards the finishing line now, all very much together. One last go at who's going to win, Paul?
Well, at this stage of the game, Phil, I really wouldn't like to stick my neck out. I noticed Frederic Vichot was moving up there, quite a fast finisher. He had a little bit of a fight with Sean Yates in one of the Tour de France stages, so I'm not sure.
Well, let's see then. Paul Sherwen did very well at picking them out on the Tour de France. And Yates goes through noticeably now. They've dropped down the back of the line. They may feel now that they've done the work of keeping the pace together. Now they'll expect Malcolm Elliott to do his bit of work and go and take the stage. Let's see if that happens now. This, in fact, is not the leading group. These are the stragglers of the next group onto the circuit. And it looks to me as though, I think it's Ruith talking there to Dave Rayner on the left of our picture. And they are running quite a few minutes behind the leaders. Now, we'll go and shortly pick up the leaders again. This is Rayner bringing the back group through. He's had a hard day today. He almost contacted the leaders. In fact, he did do so at the climb of Rosedale Chimney, and then he was left again. Way down below then, the leaders are making the way around the Minster for the last time. Just on the other side now, and it looks like an attack here. This is one of the cast riders. It's not Kelly. In fact, it's Thomas Wegmuller who's going clear. He's looked over his shoulder, and this could catch Elliott off guard. Elliott's the other yellow jersey looking across, and I think it's McLaughlin very close to him as well. It is. McLaughlin goes round. Malcolm Elliott takes him round. And now this is what will always happen. One rider jumps clear before the sprint. Wegmuller has the break here now. Elliott after him. Elliott takes close second place there now. Then we've got McLaughlin in third spot. Wegmuller's got a length here, and surely Wegmuller's going to get it. Elliott comes. Elliott right on the line. Where did he find that speed from? We'll have a look at that again in slow motion, but I think Malcolm Elliott took it, and I think Malcolm Elliott thinks he did as well. Well, that is absolutely unbelievable. If he has, that's the double today for Malcolm Elliott, and that's something of a uniqueness in world cycling. I don't recall anybody winning the prologue in the morning and in the afternoon taking the road race. This is the sprint. Elliott is in second place here. Somehow he's found the strength to take the victory. A win for Elliott, second Wegmuller, third Joey McLaughlin, and there's the overall: Elliott, McLaughlin and Yates and Roach. Well, today's route is not easy. It's 106 miles across the backbone of England, the Pennines. And one surprise the organisers have in store: a cobble climb in Halifax. They call it the Shibden Wall. Indeed they do, but it doesn't seem to be worrying Malcolm Elliott here, who's nice and happy as he makes his way out on this second day, resplendent in the yellow jersey, the coveted symbol of world cycling that everybody wants. Last year's winner wearing 13 this year, Joey McLaughlin, but it looks as though Elliott, his teammates here, are in a little bit of trouble. That's Stephen Roach, the world champion, and wearing number 1, who seemed to have a mechanical problem. He's underway. And another rider here in trouble, receiving mechanical assistance. That's Sean Yates wearing number 2. So the Fagor team in action at both the front and the back of the race already today. On the climb now of Keckskill, this is on the road down towards Skipton, and it looks like a good attack here by Joey McLaughlin. And Thomas Wegmuller not too far adrift of him either, and this is the first real action of the race today. In fact, this is Aberdeen on the front of the race. This climb, a main road climb, as we go down between Harrogate and Skipton, out on the moors yet again. The riders are going to see plenty of the moorland roads this week. And the leader in the King of the Mountains, Gianetti, coming through now, bringing the riders back up to the two leaders. He had a wonderful day yesterday, Mauro Gianetti, and he's out now to try and defend his lead there. Sean Kelly too, trying to have a little attack. Leading riders score the points, and Gianetti trying to get maximum points here. First climb of the day. Good sprint going on here towards the top. Stephen Hodge, this is in fact taking on. Stephen Hodge goes, Chris Lillywhite comes up on our left. So Chris Lillywhite goes clear, and Stephen Hodge is in second place. So Lillywhite again coming up in the action. So Lillywhite wins the climb, just as he did yesterday, the first climb of the race. Hodge was second, and Kelly was in fact third. Now Dave Mann on the attack, as we head out away from Keckskill and on towards Silsden and Keighley. And Dave Mann, a local rider, he knows the area very well indeed. He comes from Fagley near Bradford, and he will have trained many hours around these roads. Down at the feeding station at Silsden now, and in fact news reaching us that Mann has built a lead of over 3 minutes. And there's confirmation of that indeed. 3 minutes 15 seconds for Dave Mann over the main field. They don't look to me as though they're too interested in the goings-on of this Rally Banana rider at the moment. On the top of the Dog and Gun Hill here. And Dave Mann now has a lead of 4 minutes as far as we can ascertain. And again, a climb he's been over before. And there's confirmation of the climb of the Dog and Gun Hill. Dave Mann taking the prize over the top. Second was Gianetti. Chris Lillywhite was third. And now the major challenge of the day. There you can see it right at the middle of our picture. And here we can now view Dave Mann on it. The cobble climb of Shebden Wall. Mann has come to this climb with a lead of 2:35, and in fact he hasn't been climbing it too well, and the gap has been tumbling down, and we understand that the rider doing the damage, Sean Kelly, and in fact his Cass Mavic team. Over the top then, and Mann is on a little bit smoother road now. We can go further back down the climb. This is the chasing group. It's thinned out a little bit in fact, as the riders have now tried to bring back. There is Kelly on the far side. This is Adrian Timmis here in the white in the Zeb Peugeot team. But all the riders now are trying to close down this gap, which is just over 2 minutes. One of the finds in the red jersey of this tour certainly is Rob Holden, the young under-23 rider. And you can see one rider there in all sorts of trouble. Slipped a gear, I think, as he's tried to come up the climb. Dave Rayner, just behind the red jersey of Holden here. Another rider who comes from Bradford. I wonder if he knows this climb though, because nobody's raced on this wall before. It's just on the outskirts of Halifax, but it certainly isn't on the main roads. The organisers really have done a little bit of heart searching on the Ordnance survey maps for this one. Aberdeen here, early leader in the King of the Mountains in the Tour de France this year. But I bet he never saw a cobbled hill like this in that race. They all struggle now. The world's #1 world champion on the far side. The rainbow jersey of Roach getting stronger by the day. Still a real fancied man for victory in this race as we continue down towards London. Darrell Webster here on the Doors team, just passing through our picture. Seems you have to have a knee injury to be a star in the world of cycling these days, because Webster's had one, so has Stephen Roach, so too of course is Joey McLaughlin. And now they're all coming back to the top of their form this year. This climb gets steeper as it gets longer. And this is Sean Yates now. Not quite as fluid as he is once he gets back on the flat roads, but even so, he's making a nice steady tempo for himself. And look at this, looks like a spectator trying to follow Yates there. He's advised him to take the smoother road, and he's followed the advice of the rest of the field. So the whole field here is on the paving, on the pavement of the climb. And I suspect sooner or later we're going to see the spectators on the cobblestones, who knows. Oh, there they are. Sean Kelly here, taking the smooth way up. This reminds me of a famous climb in Belgium called the Mur de Grammont, the Wall of Grammont, because that is a very, very tough climb, very steep indeed, and it doesn't have a smooth sidewalk to it either. 200 metres to go to the top, that's what the green flag means, and this crowd of club cyclists and general spectators are really enjoying the spectacle. There is the crowd right down there as the riders struggle up. Halifax, in fact, is over the dip, and you can't quite see it. Dave Mann, long gone by the way. He's heading down to Halifax, although his lead is still coming down. It's about a minute 50 now, we understand. But Sean Kelly finding good form. He's driving this group along. I think that's Mark Madio alongside him there with the red trousers on. And as they go over the top, Mann's gone. Kelly, in fact, it's Yvonne Madio up there in third place. McLaughlin keeps in close touch in fourth. And now we look out towards Home Moss, the last big climb of the day in the backbone of the Pennine chain. A climb up from Home Firth, and Dave Mann has been caught. We heard he was only about 40 seconds ahead at the start of the climb, and it looks as though he knew he wasn't going to make the top. He's been in the lead, in fact, for best part of 44 miles. But the bunch has done what they wanted to do, and they've come up alongside Dave Mann, and they've not even given him the courtesy of a glance as they go by. Not Stuart Coles, rather, he was regrettably disqualified. That was Steve Dowse on the front for the Rally Banana team, but now the race under pressure again. Another massive crowd come out onto another beauty spot of Great Britain, and this is Giannetti having a go again. He really is turning out to be quite a star climber and the man to beat in this King of the Mountains competition. I think we'll agree with that. Henri Abadie joining him here. And Abadie then, another good climber, joins Giannetti. Two riders in their element when the roads go steeply upwards. The sky not so blue as it was on the North Yorkshire moors. Sean Kelly comes to the burst now. This is a sprinter developing into a climber, because Kelly gets maximum points, 12 points. There's the confirmation. Giannetti is second and Henri Abadie is third. And by the way, Madio fourth. Malcolm Elliott was fifth. There's the finish line down below us there in Albert Square in the heart of the city of Manchester. The circuit now occupied by the leading riders here as they come through now with 5 full laps of the circuit to go. And the field generally regrouped, some 41 riders in fact being led here at the moment by Mike Doyle are all together. So Mike Doyle on the front, followed by Steve Jones. And the PMS Doors team anxious to do well here today because this is their base, and I believe their sponsors are on site. And they also have another reason to do well, because after the day's fighting amongst themselves in the TV time sprints, if Nick Barnes can score well on the last sprint, which is at the end of the next circuit, then he will be the overall leader of that competition. Because remember, today he wears the white jersey of leader, that's true, but in fact it's Malcolm Elliott in the yellow jersey who is on top of the TV time sprint classification. So a good piece of teamwork here, Paul.
Well, this is again a piece of teamwork by the PMS Doors team. The two riders taking turns to ride at the front. On the front, you've got Mike Doyle swinging over here to ask Steve Jones to come through and keep the speed high, because they'd like to get Nick Barnes into a good position to try and take this hotspot sprint competition.
Steve Jones then, a late replacement, remember, for Shane Sutton, who sadly broke his collarbone literally 2 days before this race began. And Steve Jones really deserved his place anyway, because he was third this year in the milk race. Now the riders then. I'm a little bit surprised to see such a big field, I must admit, after the race today. But now the sprint, by the way, is on. This is John Clay, and that is Barnes, his teammate in his slipstream. So Clay playing here the perfect teammate, or is he going for it himself? Because John Clay has started with a great sprint here, and Barnes is struggling to keep up on him as we go over the square here. In fact, John Clay put his brakes on there to allow Nick Barnes to go through in first place. Barnes, Paul, trying to continue the attack.
Well, a good piece of teamwork by Jonathan Clay there, putting the brakes on to let Nick Barnes come through. And Nick, having seen the gap that he'd got, he's carried on over the top to try and come away and sneak away from this group. But you can see straight away the chase being organised behind by the Fagor boys, as it was yesterday. And I think I could just see coming to the front there Robert Miller, in second place Sean Yates. Again, they're whipping up the pace because they don't want any breaks going away on this circuit, because they want to keep Malcolm Elliott's place at the top of the general classification safe. And why not another stage win for Malcolm Elliott today?
Just look at that long line of riders, long line now. We're into the last 3 laps of the race, so the next 4 to 5 minutes or so is all that it will be. And the whole field, 41 riders there are in this big bunch, but we understand that the rest of the race is varying in time gaps from about 7 minutes to as much as 17 minutes behind today.
Well, Robert here back on the front, and you see how these 2 riders are sharing turns to break into the wind. Sean Yates slipping back a little bit, looking a little bit worse for wear today because he's had a very hard day, changed his bike, had a wheel change, and he's been having to keep up. As we come back to this group here, these are in fact stragglers who are going to be something like 5 or 6 minutes behind the leading group here as we come back to Robert Miller, who's doing his stint at the front with Sean Yates tucked in second place. In a minute, as you see Robert changing gear, he'll swing over to let Sean Yates come through and do his little turn in the wind.
And so the long thin line indicates that the elastic being stretched here by 2 of the world's, not just Britain's, greatest bike riders, Robert Miller on the left and Sean Yates, who's now taking up the pacemaking yet again. Stephen Roach isn't too far away. It's interesting to note that Pensek continually rides in 3rd or 4th place in this line, might well be looking for the win. And of course, remember a year ago when we came into Manchester in the first Kellogg's Tour of Britain from Newcastle, it was in fact Joey McLaughlin who was the winner here then. He's not too far away either, and McLaughlin naturally went on to win the race overall. So we still have Elliott on the front. I beg your pardon, we still have Yates on the front. Elliott's the man in the yellow jersey, and every time Sean Yates comes around that corner, he almost clips those barriers with his shoulder.
Well, Sean is a little bit of a kamikaze. It's amazing how he just pushes it right to the limit every time. I think it comes a little bit from the fact that in his spare time he likes to ride a motorbike, and he gets a big thrill when he can touch the floor with his knees. I think he's trying to do the same thing with those barriers with his shoulders today. Robert Miller comes through now on Sean to do his little turn at the front as they're keeping the pace very, very high. But behind them, what will be happening now is all the sprinters in this group will be moving up to the front to wait for the next 2 laps, because that's when they'll be moving into the limelight to try and steal the glory.
There we are, 2 laps to go as we pass the town hall. And Robert Miller is the rider now doing his little bit at the front. And Yates gritting his teeth here and doing a tremendous job. Pensek there in 3rd place. And just a little bit further down the line, I think we've got Stephen Roach. I can also see Malcolm Elliott. The green jersey there of Joey McLaughlin. Elliott's chosen to follow Joey McLaughlin's wheel. Elliott in yellow, McLaughlin in the green jersey as points leader. But in fact, for the moment at least, Malcolm Elliott also leads in that competition. And McLaughlin is the guest wearer of the jersey because he is in fact in 2nd overall place as the 2nd most consistent rider in the Tour this year so far. Still, we have the Fagor pair on the front as we go back a little way, just a little bit further around the circuit. We've got the stragglers coming in. They are in fact just on 6 minutes behind, but the gap on the circuit means that this leading group here is beginning to get them in their sights. Now, this could be a serious situation if the group picks up those stragglers, because it would mean a very, very confusing finish, and that would give the judges, not to say the riders, 1 or 2 problems. Let's see, let's hope in fact that doesn't happen. Yates, the man from Forest Row in Sussex, having his best ever season and now doing all of the work here to keep this race together in the hope that Malcolm Elliott in the yellow will do a City of York finish and win here in Manchester in a couple of minutes' time.
Well, it always amazes me the position that Sean Yates has on his bike, because it's so aggressive. He's down, for a big man, he's down so low on that bike. As you can see him rocking his shoulders, getting every last little bit of energy out now. He's gritting his teeth there. Sean, amazingly up there in 3rd place overall, not even thinking about that. His teammate, Malcolm Elliott, is leading. Sean in 3rd place doesn't mean anything to him at all. All it means, all he's worried about is getting Malcolm Elliott there in a suitable position to try and keep hold of this yellow jersey. There you can just see Stephen Roach has now moved past Pensek into 3rd place, and again, as the day before, we've got the 3 English-speaking Fagor riders defending the lead of Malcolm Elliott.
Well, coming up towards the bell this time, we're catching glimpses all of the time of that straggling group not too far ahead. This is going to be touch and go, because if anybody from this group can take a flyer into the lapped riders, as they would be, The confusion could mean a win for somebody here that will not be Malcolm Elliott. We're on the final lap of the centre of the circuit at Manchester now, and that's Robert Miller still insisting on keeping this pace high. And Shaun Yates content too to stay up there in second place. We should be seeing now the progress of the man in yellow, and there he is, Malcolm Elliott, still on the wheel of Joey McLaughlin. The world champion Stephen Roach in third place. This is a fine effort by Robert Miller now to keep this line as long and thin as possible, to stop anybody lifting the pace anymore, to make progress up the bunch towards the sprint finish. So the order then: Miller on the front, Yates changing up a gear as he stays in second place. We can't quite see it, but there we are. Stephen Roach, the world champion, is third. Malcolm Elliott now taking a close line in fifth place. One or two intruders trying to get through there, and if they do, well, that will cause a little bit of confusion for everybody concerned. This is a great ride here by Robert Miller. You can't take any of this away from him. If Malcolm Elliott wins tonight, the first man he should thank are these two, Miller and Yates, because they're setting it up as best they know how. That is Willie Willems there on the right in the lime green jersey, a younger professional rider who is in trouble on the climb of Home Moss. He certainly isn't now. He's on the flat roads. Home from home in the centre of Manchester, always the chance: suffer when it hurts and get back in the action when you recover. That's the motto in professional cycling. And still at that barrier there, it's Yates who comes round, keeps it tight, but surely he can't keep this up now. McLaughlin has taken second place. Elliott consistently following Joey McLaughlin there. Won't come off his wheel, stays there in his slipstream. McLaughlin knows it now. McLaughlin looked to his left, didn't see Elliott, looked to his right and saw him. But this now is an attack by the PMS Doors team. It's John Clay going again. John Clay has the advantage now. McLaughlin's chasing Clay. Elliott's chasing McLaughlin. And this is John Clay now trying for the victory. McLaughlin through on the inside first. That first rider's a straggler, looks over his shoulder. So there is a little bit of confusion here, because that's a straggler. This is the race for the line, and McLaughlin's going to get it. Joey McLaughlin repeats history on the line. He did it a year ago. On that occasion, he went on to win the Kellogg's Tour. I wonder what he's thinking now. Joey McLaughlin beats the current leader of the Kellogg's Tour, Malcolm Elliott, and he did it right on the line. Well, here we can see how he did it. He held his line very tight. He kept Elliott on his left shoulder, pushed him wide, and then sprinted for the line. His face tells the story. Victory is Joey's. That's how to do it. So there then is the result. Joey McLaughlin the winner, Elliott pushed back to second, John Clay third, Barnes and Kelly. That's the order. And no wins today in the King of the Mountains competition for Mauro Gianetti, but a very consistent day indeed. He keeps his lead in that competition. There's the confirmation, 8-point advantage over Sean Kelly, a great day, and Stephen Hodge as well, a good day for him. Tris Lillywhite is fourth, Malcolm Elliott is fifth. Now we're looking here at the white jersey, and that final sprint here in the city of Manchester was enough for Nick Barnes. He's now got the overall lead by a single point off Malcolm Elliott, with Mark Walsham third. A look then at the overall situation. Malcolm Elliott on top of the pile, leading by 20 seconds from Joey McLaughlin. In third place, Elliott's teammate Shaun Yates. Fourth, the world champion Stephen Roach. And fifth, Thomas Wegmuller, Sean Kelly's teammate from the CAS team. A little bit further down the list, you've got Ronan Pensek in 7th slot. And Kelly was the big improver yesterday. He moved up from 10th to 9th overall. One man already out on the road very early this morning, Paul McDowell. He's out on the course to give us now the complete rundown on what faces the riders today on the road to Liverpool.
Unfortunately, a lot of low clouds spoiling what is one of the most scenic routes from Manchester to Liverpool on this third stage. I'm at the top of the Trough of Bowland. If you've never heard of it or been here, it is in fact one of Lancashire's most famous beauty spots. It takes them 1,500 feet above sea level. It's a Category 2 climb. And it's here too that yesterday's stage winner Joey McLaughlin has put in many hours of practice. Well, will that familiarity aid him in his...
Well, the riders then lining up here in Albert Square in Manchester. And a lot of riders, in fact, are local to this area, because the northwest of England has turned out some marvellous racing cyclists over the years. Many, many national champions, and indeed world champions such as Norman Shiel, who came from Liverpool. Here we are then on the way And this is Mark Walsham, the British circuit race champion in the Percy Bilton team. Steve Jones in the blue sleeves on the far side there, chatting with the two Fager boys, Malcolm Elliott in yellow, of course, Sean Yates, Steve Sefton on the left. Now, what's happening at the back of the race? This, in fact, is Dave Mann, our breakaway hero yesterday. Seems to be making a wheel adjustment and getting back in the race. And Joey McLaughlin too, dropping back to his team car, driven by team manager Roger Leger, and wow, he's gone. Well, all that's behind the race during the neutralised section, because the flag they're denoting now that the race is starting, and the race now is officially underway. Or is it? It looks as though it's still time for a phone call for Stephen Roach here, the world champion, keeping an eye on things from the back. What would he have done in the days without cellular phones? So here we are now, coming into Rochdale here, the site of the first TV time sprint, and this is Andy Johnson on the attack for the Air Marshal team, and it's good to see this young team having a go. They don't seem to be at all afraid of the competition this year in the race. Johnson then clear. This, I think, the most trickiest of all the sprints so far in the TV time sprint. It goes through a number of chicanes, around a couple of roundabouts as it crosses right through the centre of Rochdale. Well, Johnson has the lead at the moment, but the field are closing up rapidly on him. Remember, the leader of this competition is Nick Barnes. He wears the white jersey. That looks like Barnes trying to move in on the action now in third place. And Nick Barnes going here on the left of the picture. It's a difficult sprint, this one, but he gets it. Good for Nick Barnes, maximum points. Mark Walsham second, and Alan Percy, a new professional of just a few days, in third place. Well, all the way we've been heading out here towards the Lancashire moors, and the low clouds have been coming down and down, and it could be that very soon we're going to be into the first of the wet stages of this year's Kellogg's Tour. Caping up, Paul, for Stephen Roach.
Well, this is a very dangerous time in most of the races, because a lot of the teams send riders back to the team cars to pick up these racing capes, and a lot of riders at the back will struggle to get back onto the climb, because they've been back into the team cars getting racing capes for the team leaders. You can see one of the two of the riders here struggling.
Well, they've chosen a bad time, because we're on what is quite a long climb here out of Bacup. This is the first of the two climbs today. It's only a third category. I think the judges a little bit hard here, because this is quite a difficult climb. And we've got Lillywhite up here in second place, who's trying to do well on the climbs. Remember his rivalry with Gianetti. That is Gianetti just over the back in the blue hat. You can spot him. He's riding on the shoulder of Chris Lillywhite. Stephen Hodge here is coming to the front too for the Cass Mavic team, because Sean Kelly is also challenging in this mounted competition. And if you can see the two yellow riders in the background there, Sean Kelly is the one on the left, and he's waiting to see sight of the finish of the climb before he makes a move.
As we come up to the you can see Stephen Hodge there, who's actually leading his own sprint out with looks like Frederick Vichot is leading out Gianetti before. This is quite a reasonable tactic to keep the speed high, so that the two riders going for the just back there, looks as if Sean Yates just nearly clipped a car. They're leading the sprint out, so that the riders going for the sprint don't have to make too long an effort into the wind.
So the riders on the wet roads, remember, and they're a little bit greasy because we haven't had too much rain. But now the sprint beginning to be wound up here by Stephen Hodge in the centre of the picture. Lillywhite on the left trying to get round Hodge. Hodge has opened the running for the line then. Remember, Gianetti isn't too far behind in the white jersey there. But we've got Hodge here on the left of the corner. And it looks as though we've also got on the behind him now Lillywhite, Gianetti. These three are going clear. Hodge is making a break for it. Good positioning here by Lillywhite. Kelly's sprung onto the scene there from nowhere. 100 metres to go now. Kelly in fourth place. They've got Gianetti boxed on the inside as Lillywhite opens the sprint. Lillywhite checks out the opposition. He sees Kelly. Good enough though. Lillywhite gets it. Kelly is second, and the judges have awarded Gianetti the third place. So good scoring then by Lillywhite, and the two rivals neck and neck for that one. Well, the very slippery descent here. The riders taking no chances. This is Darrell Webster on the front, a rider who picked up no less than 40 British medals in championships before he turned professional this year, and yet another rider out of action until now because of injury. Well, on the long descent here, the riders keeping it in check at around 45 miles an hour, which for this sort of descent is not terribly quickly. So time for Roach to make another phone call, this time with his cape on. So whatever the subject was earlier, this is the return coming up now. Well, they never cease to amaze me, these bike riders, but they've chosen to neutralise the race a little bit here. The road's drying out again as the world champion shows us off again his rainbow jersey. And in fact, Alan Gornall here now, who had been allowed a lead earlier on to go and visit friends in Clitheroe, and he's now coming back to the main field. And this is Stephen Roach here, absolutely sprinting out of the pack, it appears, to speak with Gornall. And I've got a feeling that Roach here is not at all amused at the time that Alan Gornall has spent out front. Well, the riders all back together again, and the pack do have this rule amongst themselves that they let riders go out and meet friends, and then they must come back, and it looks to me as though they weren't too bothered earlier on, but they didn't like what happened afterwards. Now we're on to the Trough of Bowland here, heading out now into the wilds of Lancashire. Malcolm Elliott looking a little bit wet and bedraggled for the moment in that yellow jersey, and in fact, Paul, all of the riders are looking to me as though they've not enjoyed this early rain.
Well, it's hardens up the muscles quite a lot, the rain, and you notice that now that they're getting to the climb, all the riders, although it's still very damp, they're taking off the raincoats so they can breathe a lot better, because you find when you race in these raincoats, it tends to overheat you quite a lot, and when you get to the strategic point, they all start ripping off the raincoats again.
Well, there's plenty of action going on at the front now as the field is beginning to be strung out a little bit. One or two news is reaching us in retirements today, I'm afraid. Pascal Richard, the world cyclo-cross champion who crashed out of the Tour de France, has abandoned this morning already. And also Glenn Coltman has left us, so two riders out of the race today. And now you can see the field here is now well strung out as they start to come along the main moorland roads. One or two shouts there from the crowd as we look now through the rain on our camera lens, and attacked by a rider there in a white jersey. That'll be La Wyman Suisse colours going clear. The pack are not reacting at all. They've seen him go, there's no doubt about that, because you've got that arrowhead on the front of the pack, but he's going clear. And this looks to me as though it says Demier, the Swiss member of the new team that's formed this year. And they're having a tremendously successful season. They're led by Steve Bauer, the Canadian, normally. And there's confirmation of that. Demier it is. And what about him, Paul? A strong man indeed.
Well, Demier is a very renowned rider for this kind of attack. He's actually been a professional since 1977. He won a stage in the Tour de France in 1983 in a lone effort like this. He also won a time trial in around about 1983 as well with his teammate Daniel Gissiger. So this solitary effort, he's quite used to it.
Well, let's see what the bunch think of this. The gap is opening and the field are looking to me as though they're beginning to chase a little bit. It's a long, long way to go, of course, as we go down towards Dunsop Bridge and on the Trough of Bowland. And once on that climb, who knows what could happen. Demier, remember, is a long break specialist, but he's facing now 77 miles on his own. That is rather an awesome prospect. On the climb now of the Trough of Bowland, a couple of chasing riders trying to get clear down there of the field and take up the chase as they now enter the trough itself. This climb, by the way, is very narrow. The crowd's reported on the summit to be quite large.
Well, there you can see the BH rider who was chasing, trying to get across to Serge Demier, followed by the policeman of the Wyman team to prevent him getting across. Demier's attacked at a very strategic point here. It's very narrow roads, and if he can get a lead of about 20-25 seconds, what will be advantageous to him is the fact that it's a question of out of sight, out of mind, but it's very hard to get that initial 25 seconds.
Well, he's riding very, very well indeed. I must tell a little story while we're looking here at Demier on the climb of the Trough of Bowland, because when Sean Kelly went up this hill at 18 years of age in the milk race a few years ago now, because he's 32, he was lying in third place overall in the event when his bike collapsed and he finished many, many minutes behind when he was certain to have achieved third place in that event at 18. And I would have thought that Sean Kelly would have been demoralised beyond belief. He certainly wasn't, And of course, as we all now know, he's gone on to be the #1 rider in the world. This then, after that little anecdote, is the back of the field today in the second Kellogg's Tour of Britain. And Kelly is in that big bunch somewhere. And this is the rider doing the damage out front. The climb then of the Trough of Bowland. And Serge Demir almost looked to me as though he had a little sneeze then. Probably caught a chill already after the rain falling an hour or so ago. Not too bad the weather here. In fact, now it's beginning to warm up a bit and the cloud lifting. But a lot of descending to go. This is the last climb of the day. It's not been a difficult stage for climbing. This is the high spot, some 1,500 feet. And it's going to be a difficult day for the riders to judge. Let me tell you straight away that this rider is over 17 minutes behind on the overall classification. He lies in 47th place, and this could be the reason why the men in the bunch are not paying too much attention to him at the moment at least. Difficult race for them to judge, I think, Paul, but of course Sean Kelly, Stephen Roach, they're the riders who are going to watch each other at the moment, aren't they?
Well, Serge Demir is over 17 minutes behind on the overall classification, and as we look up the climb up between the two hills there, that's what's facing Serge Demir at the moment. But to come back to what I was saying, the teams really who have to chase are going to be Fagor and Cass. They'll try and get the chase organised, but for the moment this man isn't dangerous to them overall, so when they get over the top of the climb without disorganising the team, they'll start to arrange the chase on the descent down the valley roads. But for the moment they're giving him a little bit of a leeway.
One of the Spanish riders here, Merguialdi, I think it is having a little respite at the back of the race. The Spanish team has not had a great tour already. They've lost a rider, they've struggled a little bit, so they not have really taken part in this race at all. Well, Demir seems to be enjoying himself at least. He's been twice the champion of Switzerland, once as an amateur, once as a professional. We go back to 1983 when he picked up the professional title. He's looked over the back there to see where the group is. Well, he's seeing the whole pack, in fact, because the two chasers we saw have gone back into the main group. There is no one in between. The red jersey on the right at the front there is Rob Holden. This amazing 20-year-old, the youngest man in the race, who's holding on to that leader's red jersey as this race unwinds. And there's only a few more days to go down to the city of Westminster. Will be very, very fine indeed for Holden if he can survive what is still a lot of racing to come. The amazing thing about this race here, as we watch the third day on the Trough of Bowland, is there's only a few seconds separate a lot of riders. In fact, the first 17 riders overall are only separated by 58 seconds. So really, this race could turn upside down almost at a minute's notice. There they are. You can get a little bit of the aspect of the gradient of the Trough of Bowland from my helicopter here as it follows them up the hill. The yellow jersey riding not too far away from the front. The crowd loving every minute of this. There is a massive crowd here. This race catching on so quickly, and the crowd seems to be turning out at the most remote points of the course all day long. Just look at them now, enjoying the sight of the Swiss rider Serge Demir go up the mountain, and look at that cutting through the trough. Wonderful sight indeed. And we get a lot of letters coming into us about the beauty that the race takes, the course it takes, and it really does show everybody Britain at its very best. I'm not sure, in fact, whether Demir appreciates it quite as much as we do. Towards the summit then now for Serge, the lead over half a minute. We're hearing that information over the main pack, so he's labouring, in fact, Paul, to get the gap as he comes inside 200 metres to go.
Well, as he's coming just up to the top here, all Demir is probably thinking about is when are these service cars going to come up behind me so that I know what my time gap is, because at the moment, until he's got the team cars behind him, he probably thinks that the gap is below 30 seconds, and he's still waiting for some kind of confirmation. When he gets down on the descent, then he can start trying to build up his lead as he just comes over the top.
Well, they must have heard you, Paul, because there's the time gap come up now, 39 seconds. So the narrow roads are probably the reason that the team cars haven't joined him, because they can't get through the massive riders here at the moment. This is the chasing group coming up now, and the green jersey of Joey McLaughlin was quite evident there, and so too was the yellow jersey of Malcolm Elliott. This, of course, the the last mountain climb today, so we'd expect to see Gianetti in the action sooner or later. And the rider number 50 here, who's in all sorts of trouble, is Paul Brown at the back of the race. But there's plenty of time to rejoin the main pack, because once over the top, there's quite a long descent. And then, of course, we're on the flat roads heading down towards the Merseyside coastline. And this is now Demir on the way down, heading towards the base, while we're looking at Stephen Roach here leading the group up towards the top. And I think that's Sean Kelly also having a go, watching everybody else go with him. But Kelly also going over the top there. He will get second place. And it looks as though Gianetti didn't score well then either. So if we can have a look now at the situation on the King of the Mountains, there it is. Demir wins 10 points. Kelly is second, Roach third, Gianetti fourth. So Sean Kelly had a great day in the mountains today. Well, we're back with the leader here now. Let's remind you, he broke away as we approached the climb of the Trough of Bowland. And now he's working to try and bring back some of the time he's lost over the last 2 days, because he started this morning over 17 minutes behind the race leader, Malcolm Elliott. And look at this. From our helicopter, we're panning back down the course. The cars in the distance there indicate the location of the main field. I don't actually see the riders. There they are, coming out of the trees, so they're just ahead of all the cars. And the gap confirmed at 3 minutes 15 seconds. So I suspect, Paul, that sort of a gap, he must be now approaching a mile in the lead.
Well, yeah, when he's gone away down the descent, Demier's had a better chance to take the corners, which is still very damp from the rain this morning. He's got a better line around the corners than this bunch, who have probably taken it a little bit more careful, because it's very dangerous on these descents, and they've let him go somewhat down the descent.
When he broke away, Paul, would he have been thinking of staying away to the finish, or just to try and win the climb over the trough?
Well, I think the kind of attack that he's launched here is really to try and get away and win the stage, because there's a lot of team tactics involved at the moment. The Fagor team are leading with third placed overall Sean Yates. Kelly's up there as well, so there's a bit of poker going on between these two teams, deciding who's going to chase, and Demier is taking advantage of this, waiting to see who'll chase, and maybe nobody will.
Well, at the moment, that does seem to be the answer, because nobody is attacking at all. The whole peloton is riding along in a tight group there, which indicates no reaction at all. We're going back along the rather bleak moorland road here today, and we're going up and up and up, and in the far distance, still no sign of Serge Demier as they roll away over the fells here of Lancashire. The countryside, which is so bleak in the winter and so beautiful on the nice days in the summer. And down there, way down there, the lone figure of Serge Demier, riding along British roads for a change for him. He missed the Tour de France this year, and look at this now. The gap has gone up over 5.5 minutes. So another 12 minutes on that total, only another 12 minutes, and Demier will have the yellow jersey on his shoulders. Maybe that's what he's looking for.
Well, Phil, when Demier gets to the feed here, he's got another thing to his advantage, the fact that as he goes through, he'll collect his bag, he'll put all the food into his back pocket, but behind, when the peloton comes through, it's normally absolute chaos. All the riders switching around, trying to find their bags, looking for their masseurs to get their bags, missing their bags, switching left and right to find it, especially in this country at the moment, because the foreigners are feeding on the right-hand side of the road and the British riders are taking food on the left-hand side of the road. So it is absolutely sometimes total chaos for the riders.
Well, there we are, and Demier, by the way, only speaks French, and he's just shouted across the French masseur, it was, I think, of the Z Peugeot team, and it might well have been for a time check over the pack. Now, out of the bag comes the food that's been so carefully wrapped during the evening and early morning by the mechanics and masseurs, all in the back pockets. This is the main field now, led by Bernard Richard, a teammate, the fifth member of the Fagor team, and the one we haven't seen too much of during the attacking riding by that team. Here's the main field then into the field. World champion Roach snatches the food for the day. So too Robert Miller, and there goes I think it was Bernard Richard also taking his bag. Malcolm Elliott in yellow, Sean Yates, all the men, and it looks like a problem. You heard Paul Sherwen mentioning the trouble at the feeding stations generally. Well, we've got one here, because in fact little Stephen Jockin here has fallen off at the back of the group, and it looks to me as though the British champion in a little bit of pain there. Roach now riding at the front, no-handed, unpacking the food bag. And again, Paul, still no sign at all of a reaction.
Well, the riders obviously realised Demieres are nowhere overall because they'd have been informed by their team managers, and there's no time yet as Roach is coming up to offer he's offering a Mars bar to the cameraman. He's obviously got a lot of spare food today.
He's in high spirits too. He's made a couple of phone calls. That's probably ruined the race budget for the year. And now we're back with the leader here, talking to the race organiser, Alan Rushton. And one has to say what a marvellous job he does too with his team of helpers. This is an enormous lead he's built up now. It's up to 10 minutes. And Alan Rushton has probably just told that fact to Serge Demieres. And by the way, when they tell the leader, they make a point too of informing the bunch behind. There's no question of cheating amongst the organisation. And there is the small computer you saw there briefly on the forks of the leader. That is calibrated to the size of the wheel, and it doesn't just tell the distance covered. You can work all sorts of things out on it. Heading off now towards Southport, and Serge Demieres, there's Southport down below. And look at this now. We've jumped to 14.5 minutes, Paul. 3 more minutes and we've got a new leader on the road. We're now working our way through the streets of Southport, and this is the biggest crowd of the race since we left Newcastle upon Tyne on Tuesday. Absolutely enormous here. We're heading for the TV time sprint, and in fact obviously the leading points there will go. Around the roundabout way below is the main field, and they're being led here by Steve Jones for the sprint. John Clay now taking up the running, and the white jersey of the sprint leader, Barnes, back in the action here, looking for second place, but Mark Walsham going like a train in the yellow jersey. Walsham on the outside, and it looks like it's possibly Keith Reynolds here too, but Walsham gets it, and so it's Demir, Walsham. It was Alan Percy, the new professional in the ML MBK colours, who gets the third spot on the line there. We're back with the leader here then. Number 35, Serge Demieres, the longest break of the Tour of Britain this week, that is for sure now. And his lead, though, is beginning to tumble, 11.9. We've turned, by the way, into a vicious headwind since we left Southport, and it looks as though that headwind is taking its toll. A split here now in the front group. We're on the outskirts of Liverpool, and this is Keith Reynolds, who's openly attacking for the ML team. Roach is come up to him. That's a little bit of a surprise, but Roach is looking for a good ride here, and it looks like Mike Doyle from nearby Chester, just over the Mersey there, is also looking for a little bit of local glory. Mike Doyle then taking up the pacemaking. Roach in second place and Reynolds in third place. Stephen Roach, by the way, a few seconds lead here could give him the yellow jersey off his teammate Malcolm Elliott, because he started the day in fourth place.
I think the reason Roach is working here is to try and take a little bit of pressure off his team and make Cass chase.
So now we've got Serge Demieres approaching the circuit in the distance there, the tower of the Liver building with the famous Liver bird on top of it. This is the city of Liverpool, and it's a Swiss rider, Serge Demieres, who's bringing the whole of the Tour of Britain into the city. Here we have the chasing group that broke away on the outskirts with the whole field there. Just behind Stephen Roach in white, Mike Doyle at the back. Masked by the other two is Keith Reynolds. Doyle here from Chester, and now we're back with the leading rider on his circuits now. Something like 4 laps to go.
Well, it's still a long way to go for Demieres, because in something like the last 10 miles, a rider on his own can ride at 25, 26 miles an hour and lose something like 5 or 6 minutes. As we go back to Stephen Roach here, leading the chase with Mike Doyle and Keith Reynolds sitting in there.
Well, this is a good move by Roach, because he may well steal the seconds that could suddenly switch the yellow jersey from his teammate Elliott to his, and what a comeback that would be for Stephen Roach. He couldn't really have expected to be the race leader, surely, of this race so soon into his rehabilitation. There's the leader, Serge Demieres now. There's one more TV time sprint to come today, and of course there is a couple of seconds bonus there for the winner, 3 seconds in fact, and Demieres really won't need those few seconds now, because he was looking originally for 17 minutes. So this is Demieres, I'm sorry, this is Stephen Roach here leading the chase, and followed by Keith Reynolds and Mike Doyle. Roach seems to be the man wanting to do most of the work here. This is the sprint for second, third and fourth places in the TV times. Roach wants this because he wants the 2 seconds time bonus on the line. Roach has the lead at the moment. This, by the way, is quite a nasty little climb up to the finish line. You get some impression of it there. Roach takes the 2 seconds, so that could be crucial now. There's the confirmation. Demier gets 5 points, Roach and Reynolds, but of course it's the time bonus that Stephen Roach wanted, because now if he can hold off the pack here, led by Adrian Timmis and Gilbert Duclos-Lasalle, the riders causing concern because Joey McLaughlin's second place is also in danger overall. McLaughlin on the left of our picture in that green jersey. That looks like the Pocket Rocket having a go, the rider that crashed at the feeding station, Steve Jockin now. He also comes from the Isle of Man, which is just 3 hours across the water by boat here from the city of Liverpool. And now we're back with the 3 leaders on the back of the circuit. And Roach anxious now, not getting enough work rate, it seems, out of the other 2 riders. Roach is having to do a lot of the work himself.
It's amazing to notice how Stephen is riding after his break as well. 9 months out without very much competition. All the riders in the bunch at the moment are absolutely incredulized at the speed that he's can come back. He's got that pedalling back, and if you look here, he's really pedaling as he was doing in the big days when he won the Tour de France and when he won the World Championships, but really grimacing now. This is the time when he's thinking about taking the yellow jersey from the shoulders of his teammate, but it's a help to his teammate Malcolm Elliott because it's forcing the other teams to chase.
And in fact, speaking to him in French, there is the assistant race chief referee, Jerry McDade, because Demier hasn't a clue what is being said in English, and he's told him, in fact, that this chasing group is underway as well. Mike Doyle here, and Keith Reynolds and Roach. Now they're overtaking Demier here. Demier came onto this circuit. Let me explain straight away. Demier came onto this circuit 1 lap ahead. They've now pulled back the time because Demier on the circuit is losing approximately 2 minutes a lap to the chasing groups. There's the main bunch. Now 8 minutes was the advantage of Demier. That is already down now to 5 minutes, but I think it's unlikely, Paul, that they'll actually go a lap up on and bring him back.
Well, it's a long way around this circuit. It's a very, very hard circuit. Demier's just got to keep his speed up around about 25, 26 miles an hour, although Roach's group here doing 28, 29 miles an hour. The chasing group in the bunch led by the Z Peugeot team may very well come back to this group, because you can see now Mike Doyle from the PMS team is sitting on a little bit and not contributing to the breakaway group.
Well, Roach certainly wants some help here. There was a moment on the previous lap when he got the seconds, in fact, were required for the leader's yellow jersey. But at the bell here now, you can see that the great chasing by Gilbert Duclos-Lasalle, a rider who finished second on the mountain climb to Luzardiden in the Tour de France, and finished up there just ahead of the winner of the Tour, Pedro Delgado. Now he's doing his workhorse speed chase here, and it's all paid off, because as Serge Demier comes up to the finishing line here, no doubt the most deserving winner of the stage so far. A breakaway of 77 miles for the Swiss rider. The former champion of Switzerland from Geneva is now a winner of the Kellogg's Tour here in the city of Liverpool. But this is the race at the back amongst the leaders themselves, and the hard chasing by the Z Peugeot boys has done the trick, because they've brought back Stephen Roach. But Demier isn't worried, and why should he be? Because for him the day is already over. Now the 3 riders, Paul, still away, but the gap closing rapidly.
Well, they've done the ideal thing here as well. If you notice, the break came back together very much down the descent, but these riders decided we don't want to give up. We've been away for a spare time now, and Mike Doyle now thinking about possibly getting second place on the stage. He's decided to try and work a little bit, as Keith Reynolds from the ML team is coming through, working a little bit. Roach trying to come through there as well.
Well, Harry Reynolds, by the way, the father of Keith, was a rider in the Tour de France almost 30 years ago. And now Keith's going to show his dad what he can do. There he is on the front of the race. He's the man on form for the ML MBK's team. And he made the attack, by the way, that Roach was very quick to spot on the outskirts of Liverpool. And so too is Mike Doyle, who knows these roads like the back of his hand because he comes from Chester. There's Mike. Coming through on the inside, working well. Now Roach assessing the attack here now, and he seems to be deciding that it's not going to work because he's no longer participating in the breakaway. May well be deciding on seeing what he can do in the sprint finish. There's the field, Paul, and now quite clearly they're out to pick him up.
Well, they're really stringing out there, and you could just see Gilbert Duclos-Lassalle suffering at the back, which is a sign of how fast this race really is. Roach, now having decided this break is not going to succeed, has decided not to contribute anymore, and he'll probably notice very soon the bunch will come back and the junction will be made.
Absolutely right, Paul, and it has been too. So as we come to the finish of the race here, the field has come all together. We're going to be treated then, it would seem, to another great sprint finish here in the Tour of Britain. Reynolds still not willing to give up, and don't forget, psychologically, if there's any relaxation, then he'll be away again. And Roach goes. That's why Roach wasn't working. The psychological points, let them think they've caught you and then jump them again. And Roach has done just that, the clever tactician of the world champion. But they're all onto him, and the yellow jersey is there too of Malcolm Elliott, the green jersey of McLaughlin. Now the battle between the two greats, the red rose versus the white rose, because they come from opposite sides of the Pennine chain. The red rose is Joey McLaughlin wearing the green jersey. The white rose is Malcolm Elliott in the leader's yellow jersey. 20 seconds is all that separates them in this year's Tour of Britain. Remember too, and let's not forget it, that McLaughlin is the defending champion of this race, which he won, and John Clay's gone down. A touch of wheels and John Clay has been dumped on the side of the road there. So goodness knows what happened. Clay's been challenging every day in these sprint finishes. He won't today. The whole field then coming together for the big sprint around the tight bend here now. And on the outside looks to me like Sean Yates taking it wide. He's picked up Malcolm Elliott. Yates works so selflessly for Malcolm Elliott. That's Yates in the middle. Elliott's on the outside. McLaughlin here in green. Whoa, they almost touched on that bend. And again. And McLaughlin now straightens out from the corner, going for home here. Elliott's got his wheels. McLaughlin comes clear. This is going to be good for Joey. Joey McLaughlin coming clear. Elliott on the inside and is not too pleased with whatever happened there. And McLaughlin's thrown his arms up. This is a victory for him and Liverpool, even though he's only finished second. But you have to say that sprint was questionable.
Joey, what a finish there into second place.
Fantastic. Just so pleased because of all the crowd and everything. I just didn't want to disappoint them.
One man you did disappoint was Malcolm Elliott. Now, what was going on? Can you tell us?
It was just into the last corner. Just a bit of, the usual when it comes to the last 200 metres. Nothing else really.
Malcolm's hand shot out. Did he actually touch you, do you know?
I don't know. I mean, it's just go for the line at the last 200 metres.
Do you think you were in the clear?
Yeah. All the way up the hill, yeah.
So where does this leave you now? Tomorrow?
See what happens. There's not much else you can say.
Joey, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Yesterday, I wasn't too peeved about it. There was a bit rough down the finish there, and there were all sorts of problems. But today, there were enough witnesses to what happened in that sprint. It wasn't just in the finish straight. It was around the last corner. Maybe I didn't have a camera there to see. But it was pretty rough riding. I was actually squeezed right into the gutter and had to brake and back off and then come back at him again. And I was coming left and then right, and I would have come. I would have come back and was coming back at him, but when there's cameramen, photographers all over the road, in the corner of the road, in the edge of the road, I'm trying to come past, and of course it was coming across as well. It's no big deal. It's second or third. The difference between second or third, but it's the time that could be critical later on.
Well, as you can see, the two riders coming round here. It's very difficult at this stage of the game. The riders know that the first man into the corner is the man who's got to. The first man into the corner is the man who's going to win, because it's such a short finish up here. As Joey's coming round the outside, there's an unwritten law that bike riders have that you don't make an opponent fall, but everything else is really feasible. As you can see, Joey leaning over a little bit there. He doesn't probably know that it's Malcolm behind him. He's trying to get around the corner, get the best line that he can, and Elliott was surprised by the severity of the corner as he was trying to come outside Joey McLaughlin, who was taking the better line. then as they come up the finishing straight, you can see Joey's bike is all over the road here. Now this is one of the things that he always does when he sprints. He gets every little bit of energy out of his body. As you can see him looking round to see Malcolm Elliott there, he's throwing his bike, getting every last bit of energy out of it, and really it's the way he's always sprinted. He's done this a few times. He's just so strong that he's trying to get his bike and every little bit of energy out of him. Malcolm trying to get up there, but because of the movement that Joey's throwing his bike around as he is doing, really it's hard to say whether as there really is any infringement. And I think really that Malcolm was a little bit upset that Joey had beaten him in the sprint in his hometown.
Well, there we are. Paul Sherwen's opinion, I think a very fair assessment indeed there of that sprint finish. And there you can see the applause here for Joey McLaughlin, because it has been announced that McLaughlin is in the clear now, and he takes second place, and the crowd here in Liverpool love it. There is the overall situation in the points. Malcolm Elliott leads for the green jersey, McLaughlin is second, and Kelly is third. And Malcolm Elliott here, the man who keeps the yellow jersey today but loses a couple of more seconds in the overall time because of that sprint finish. Because remember, there are bonuses for the first 4 men to finish every day. So McLaughlin keeps nibbling away every day at Malcolm Elliott's yellow jersey. He can't feel safe yet, that is for absolute certainty. And there we have Malcolm Elliott ahead of Joey McLaughlin. Sean Yates is third, Stephen Roach fourth, Wegmuller is fifth.
And this is the route. 2 sprints there at Chester and Nantwich, and just 1 climb this morning, category 4 climb. Then it's down here into the city of Stoke, 4 times round this quite tight circuit, and the winner of each passage will receive one of these splendid trophies. There's Wedgwood, Royal Doulton, Ainsley and Spode. So those are the trophies, and that's the route that await the riders. Back now to Phil Liggett.
Thank you very much indeed, Paul. Here are the riders again. Another long day in the saddle for them, led off here from the Albert Dock by Stephen Roach in that World Championship jersey. A title, by the way, he's got to defend, if he can, in a couple of weeks' time. Still a little time for a joke. That's always a good sign, I think, that Roach is coming back onto form. And a minor collision for Sean Kelly, anxious to push our motorbike out of the way. Right, well, we're going, and I think I can never recall another occasion when an international bicycle race has gone through the Mersey Tunnel. So it's down under the Mersey and across onto the Wirral and into the darkness. I should imagine, Paul Sherwen, that this is rather like riding through one of those tunnels on the Galibier Pass in the Tour de France.
But fortunately this one is very well lit, Phil. The trouble with the Tour de France descents is sometimes there's no lighting at all.
Out the other side then, and the riders are still neutralised, by the way. The lead car driven by Pat McQuaid, waving a red and white checkered flag, and until that flag is pulled in, the riders are not allowed to race. No payment due to the riders today, although I imagine race organiser Alan Rushton will be paying the bill sooner or later, but the riders keep on going, heading off now along the A41 road towards the city of Chester, some 18 miles distant. Neil Martin, this looks like here, in a little bit of trouble today, Neil. He has an abscess in one of those places we can't really mention, but cyclists do get them, and he's adjusted there the height of his saddle. This is Sean Yates, who's been one of the stars of the race this week. He really has. And there's £100 being shown on the blackboard there of referee Keith Ordas, and he's telling the riders, because a special sprint here offered by a local bike dealer, K Cycles, here in Bromborough, and it looks like Andy Johnson's going to take the £100 prize for the Marshall Solar Sport team. So that's £100 in the bank for the Air Marshall team, and a good start for them. They're one of the smaller teams in the race, but Paul Sherwen remarked to me earlier today, they really are beginning to make an impression on the race. Service on the move for Malcolm Elliott. Well, at the moment, no problems. The race is not flat out, and as I think I told you earlier in the week, you are allowed to hold on to the following team car, providing the team car does not improve the position of the rider in the bunch, and that the holding on doesn't take too long. So the attack's beginning to come here. This is Jean Manfrin of France and the Cass Mavic team, with a little extra assistance from Sport Life this week here in Britain. And Jos Lammert, Johan, and these two riders have broken clear, and we are around 18 miles into the day. A good attack, possibly. Let's see what's happening. The counter-attacks are coming up to them. This has been a very active opening few miles. I suspect that the fact they're only going to be in the saddle for something like 2 hours has given them some sort of inspiration. Stephen Roach here, looking a lot more serious than he did yesterday. You may remember the early stages, laughing and joking. 1 or 2 telephone calls. Not so today. That was Kelly. This is Robert Miller. Miller's ridden a very strong race indeed, and our old friend Neil Martin here still having trouble with his saddle. The first TV time sprint here as we enter the outskirts of Chester, and it's a good win there for Sean Yates, particularly important because in fact Yates has gathered up a 3-second time bonus there. Walsham second, the TV time sprint leader Nick Barnes was third. And it's beginning to look a battle there, Paul, between Barnes, in fact, and Walsham for that jersey. But now again here, Manfrin is on the attack as we go out towards Nantwich. He's been a very active rider today, Paul. I don't know if you know very much about him. Frankly, I don't know a lot about him. He's not a new professional, is he?
No, he was actually a professional last year with the Cast team. He finished second in Paris-Bourges, a 2-day stage race in France. As you can look down the road here, you can see that he's already going very, very quickly away. I think what he's trying to do here is harden up the race, so maybe Sean Kelly can place an attack later on.
Well, that looks like Paul Verschoor, who started a counter move from the centre of the pack. He's jumped down. The best place to attack is where the leaders don't see you coming. Paul Verschoor then. He rides with a very typical Belgian style, very low, pulls himself forward on the saddle. I don't know if this is a position which they seem to preserve themselves in for the cobblestones, Paul, all the time over in Belgium.
Well, the Belgian riders do tend to ride a lot lower, and Paul Verschoor has one little nervous thing that he does is he's always adjusting his saddle, raising it up a couple of millimetres and lowering it down a couple of metres, so maybe later on we'll manage to see that.
When you think after 13 years as a professional cyclist you get to know how high his saddle should be. Well, he's joined the leader, and so we've now got 2 men out in front, and the group is showing a little bit of lethargy here, not too willing to attack. I heard a nice story this morning from one of the journalists on the race. Apparently one of the riders we haven't seen too much of in this race, Alan Percy from the ML team, he's only been a professional for the length of this race, which started, don't forget, in Newcastle on Tuesday, and he's been attacking very early on some of the mornings, and apparently he's become the banana king because the riders are throwing bananas at him for making the race too hard early on. And there we are, meanwhile, back at Nantwich in the TV time sprint, and these 2 riders now well clear. Over the front, they're not really contesting it, neither riders in the competition for that white jersey, but Manfrin goes over the line first. Verschoor takes second place. The battle really there will be for third spot and the remaining point, and here it is now. This is the leader of the competition, Barnes, much more determined than the other 2 were. Barnes scoring one nicely here over his arch rival. I think he lost some of his food as well there, out of his back pocket, but there's confirmation. Manfrin, Verschoor and Barnes. The man Barnes beat was Mark Walsham. This is a competition developing now very much between those 2 riders, and it could in fact find its climax in Westminster on Sunday afternoon. We hope you'll be down there to see that great afternoon out, by the way. Back with the leaders then, the gap growing all the time here. 7:23 it was, and the leaders have gone through this level crossing, and this is the main field. Now the rule here is quite explicit. If the leaders had been stopped, they would have been given the gap again, but if the main field is stopped, there's absolutely nothing you can do. You can't go forward and stop the leaders, so they are now gaining time, while the bunch, I'm afraid, have to cool their heels. And doesn't it seem a long time? Train goes through. The judges are saying, in fact, that they have been waiting here for 1 minute and 14 seconds. The confirmation then now that the breakaway has gone up to 8 minutes 37 seconds. A little bit of a gift, Paul, but everybody needs a bit of luck.
Well, everyone does need a little bit of luck, but what you have to do is it's the advantage to the attacking riders. A little anecdote about Paul Verschoor in second place here. He was the first Belgian I ever saw when I raced abroad for the first time. He'd won 33 races that year, and he was the reigning Belgian champion. There was a race in Spain that Ty rode called the Tour of Malaga, and he won 6 of the stages, and so I was somewhat impressed.
I would imagine you were. I would have been too. Well, he's been a pro now for 13 seasons. A long time. This is the only climb. It's a 4th category climb, and it's coming just before we hit Newcastle under Lyme. on the outskirts of the city of Stoke-on-Trent, and Manfrin is really now keeping this tempo high. They've been told now that the lead is going up towards the 10-minute mark here, so they know that barring accidents, they're going to contest the sprint finish together down in Stoke-on-Trent. The main field are quite clearly no longer interested. They've got the distance, a little bit disheartened perhaps by the closure of the level crossing as we go over the M6 motorway now, and that's a sure sign we're on the outskirts of Stoke.
Out or to come from behind, and it is a difficult decision to have to make.
Well, here are the two leaders, and Manfrin is on the front. Look at that now, Paul. 10 minutes 20 seconds, so there's no doubt we're looking at the winner. It's a question of which one we're looking at. Kelly on the front here. This is on the climb, and this race has got quite hard now. Gianetti goes on the far right. Lillywhite again, the rider who he's been in contention with for these mountains. A good sprint by Chris Lillywhite. He really is the master of the short sprints on the climbs. Lillywhite gets the odd point there in the King of the Mountains. Gianetti doesn't score, but there won't be any change overall in that competition. And now here we are outside Stoke Station and the North Staffordshire Hotel, as that is the finishing line in 4 laps time for the two leaders. A little bit further back, Lillywhite is causing a little bit of trouble in the main field by that sprint, because it looks to me as though the bunch here is beginning to split up. Darrell Webster having a go off the front, and good to see Darrell in the thick of the action after almost a season off with injury. The white flag then, another sprint for TV Times taken by Verschure. These are special preems, by the way, as well now here in the city of Stoke-on-Trent. Preems, remember, mean a prize at the white flag on the route. And this is Webster on the front here, now in pursuit, joining him here, Marshall Gayon, the yellow jersey leader of the Tour de France last season. Didn't have quite such a successful tour this year with the Toshiba team, but Darrell Webster, he'll have his hands full with young Darrell if he's on full form, because he has a tremendous turn of speed. And way below us, out on the circuit, the whole field. Right, that looks like Webster. Shed Gayon as he comes onto the circuit here up Station Road. There is Marshall Gayon. Oh dear me, the whole field have caught up as well. The red jersey of Rob Holden. Great success story for him this week. He's led the under-23 competition, and not just that, it's nice because he's the youngest man in the race at 20 years of age. The oldest man, you won't like me for saying it, is Jack Kershaw, who's 38, and he was in the forefront yesterday. And look at this, Verschure goes through on the inside, and Manfrin really wasn't paying attention. He was waiting for Verschure to do that, but I think he was expecting him on the other side of the road. And now we've got Verschure going clear, and Manfrin has made a terrible mistake. He's lost the wheel, and the race is all over. And this man knows it. Kisses to the crowd, arms in the air. Paul Verschure scores his first win of the year. So Verschure over the line. Manfrin, I think he'll be equally happy with second place. I think he probably assessed he wasn't going to handle Paul Verschure in the sprint anyway. As Paul Sherwen said, he is very, very rapid. This is the main field coming through now, led by Stephen Roach. They'll get the bell because they are 1 lap behind today. And it's Roach, Yates, and that is the order of the Fagor boys. We know that Malcolm Elliott and Joey McLaughlin are in here. Now, all the bunch, by the way, let me explain a little point. You do ask the question. All the riders who finish in the same bunch are always given the same time. The man at the front has the same time as the rider at the back. There is no splitting of the gap in between, providing there is no recognisable gap between the riders. That's why you get the big sprint, even at the back of the race. But they sprint for the time, because riders will not take great risks. So for this reason, some riders don't contest the sprint when they know they are safely home in the same time as the rider at the front. And these two riders have just nipped away here from the field as they try to come up. One of them was Keith Reynolds, and the MLMBK team is really having a good mid-term in this race. And I think the other one was our persistent Marshall Gayon, who also went clear. It's Gayon on the left here, and Reynolds is going very well indeed. Reynolds gets the 3rd spot. Gayon is 4th, and the main field coming over the line now. There's the situation then after the stage 4A this morning. A win for Paul Verschure, Jean Manfrin 2nd, Keith Reynolds third, Gayon was fourth. The overall situation, still Elliott on top, the same 18 seconds for McLaughlin, 36 for Yates, 42 seconds for Roach, and Wegmuller 47. A great win. Here it is then, the day before the long one to Bristol. It's 51 miles, second part of today's race, taking us to Birmingham. No mountains, by the way, but there are 3 TV Times special sprints, so bonuses at stake. Riders rolling away, at least most of them, but this is Alan Percy here. An early wheel change for him. Shouldn't take him too long before he'll be back in the race. And the frame number 3 can only be ridden by one man, the yellow jersey in this race, Malcolm Elliott, making his own adjustments to the brakes there on the front of the bike. But he needn't be in a big hurry because the level crossing gates have closed here as we've entered Wedgwood Park, and it looks as though the whole race has come to a halt. This is the only thing that will stop an international cycle race. You can't argue with the train. Now, the TV Times sprint was to be here, but the board being held up there by the commissaires saying no sprint, so that has been cancelled. So out past Wedgwood House here, very, very beautiful part of the Potteries. The Trent and Mersey Canal also passes through here, and they have their own railway station as well. Now the action here, the sprint was cancelled, but the race has got off to a cracking start now, leaving the park. Elliott at the front there, Stephen Roach in the World Championship jersey. This is Ian Fagan, and there seems to be a lot of racing left in the legs of these riders today, despite that very short stop. That's Noel Shostek there. Speeds up to 35 miles an hour here. Sean Kelly in the group at the front. Malcolm Elliott following on Kelly's wheel. This is good action now by the stars of the Kellogg's Tour this year.
Well, as the riders here are, it's amazing me how they managed to race so quickly after a break, because the riders only had something like an hour. And it's this break is extremely interesting because Joey McLaughlin has actually missed out at the moment.
Well, these are the teammates of McLaughlin on the front, but the whole field coming down here now. This group has swelled to something like 20 riders on the sprint line there. Frank Hoster was the man to get the points. First time we've seen him. Sean Kelly second, and this is Joey McLaughlin. He's come up on the back of this leading group, so he was a little bit late to react to the attack by Elliott and Sean Kelly there in the yellow and Roach in the white, but he's done so he saved the day, for the moment at least. Leading group here, something like 40 riders regrouping at the front there. We can see them all as we move away to the front, but they're in a very long line here, so the pressure quite clearly is still on at the front. Here is Rugeley now, the site of the third TV Times sprint today. Remember, the first one was cancelled and the previous one won by Frank Hoster. No sprint really, Lammerts takes it, but the breakaway here more interested in making time, and this is forcing Fagor under pressure. Robert Miller then doing the work for the Fagor team, followed by Sean Yates, third overall at the moment. Bernard Richard, the only Frenchman in the team, the world champion Stephen Roach, the whole of the Fagor team all doing the work for Malcolm Elliott. These are the leaders.
Well, these boys have gone away at just exactly the right time. As the early break went away, you can see here Adrian Timmis, followed by Johan Lammerts. These riders were all in the original break that went away before the first hotspot sprint competition. Murdy Galder there from the BH team. Adrian Timmis coming through again, and the one rider we haven't seen just yet is Henry Manders, just on the far side of the picture. They made the ideal move of attacking straight over the junction of the two groups.
Well, Manders is the rider who hasn't worked over hard in this group. The young rider here, Shostek, he's only 21, and he'll be very pleased to be in this breakaway group. Look at this though, the Fagor team, we've seen them in action helping Elliott win those two opening stages and trying to get him home in Liverpool as well, and now we're seeing them here trying to limit the losses on that breakaway. Adrian Timmis, by the way, is the best rider in that leading group, and he's over 7 minutes behind. Time gap we're getting is 1 minute 47 seconds, so they're labouring to get clear of the group, but they are beginning to get away. So on the far horizon there, the outskirts of Birmingham, and now they're coming in to the finishing circuit here in Birmingham, led by Noel Shostek. of the ADR team on the front. He's the boy in the lime colours there, the little man in the red half sleeves. That's a Javier Merguialdi from Spain, and Adrian Timis, the local man from Cannock, now on the front. The other rider on the far side there, Henri Manders in the other white jersey on the right, and that is the main group with Josh Lammerts in the yellow and the blue sleeves. They are the same 5 men we've seen away now since they broke clear after the 12-mile point today. And this looks like Ian Fagan sneaking onto the circuit there. There he is in the distance. Well, he's only just broken away from the field, and he's managed to do a very good ride there to crack the field and escape on this circuit. So he's closing fast, Paul. They've now got the circuits to come. What do you think about Adrian Timis? And he won here once in the milk race a couple of years ago.
Yeah, well, Adrian knows his finish very well. In fact, he finished second to Alan Piper in one of the Kellogg City Centre races on almost this exact circuit, so he knows the finish very well. He is a local boy, but you've got to look at the 2 Dutchmen who are in this break, because 2 Dutchmen always together are the kind of riders that you've got to always be careful because they're very, very good finishers.
The Fagot team have had a hard day today, one way or another. They've had to keep Sean Kelly in check and 1 or 2 other riders who've been just testing the water, softening them up for tomorrow perhaps. But the riders in the lead now, they will not be over concerned with, because once again they are not riders really affecting the overall yellow jersey of Malcolm Elliott. But even so, the momentum of the big bunch is now such that they may yet sweep them up on this finishing circuit. The gap as they came onto the circuit here was just 50 seconds, and now the chase is on to see if they can pull them back. This is Ian Fagan trying to get across the gap. He is approximately 26 seconds behind those 5 leaders, and now we're back here with the leaders. Lammerts on the front. White jersey at the back there is in fact Henri Manders. The other white jersey behind him is the man getting all the cheers here, by the way, Adrian Timis from the Z Peugeot team. And I'm wondering if we could get a double out of the day here with this man, Noel Sestek, because Sestek on the other side of Manders in that lime green jersey is on for a double for Willy de Bosche, the team manager from Belgium, because this morning it was Paul Verschuren. It seems to be a busy day for Willy de Bosche, because also good English friends of his, Martin and Karen, got married today, and it could all happen here for a hat-trick, if you like, at the centre of Birmingham for the finish. On the front then, Szostek right on cue, breaking away or trying to break away here. Young professional Paul, and it would be great to win here.
Well, he is a new professional this year. In fact, he won 2 victories last year. 3 victories as an amateur. And you always got to be very careful with Belgians, because they're good finishers. They tend to be able to slip away towards the end, and it looks as if that's exactly what he's trying to do here. But Adrian Timis trying to keep everything together, because Adrian would dearly love to win here in Birmingham.
And Fagan really is doing the ride. The ML MBK boys are having a great time in the Kellogg Tour this year. They've had a poor season by any standard, but they're really trying now to break in. They've been on the attack every day. We saw Keith Reynolds finish 3rd this morning, and now Fagan is trying to make contact with the leaders at the moment. This is the pack here now, and they're chasing hard, but not hard enough, I don't think. The gap is slowly closing, but it's a good day for Malcolm Elliott if they don't catch the leading group. There is the gap, 45 seconds then, that's official, the main field. So they are closing. They've knocked off about 5 seconds since they joined the circuit. Do you think they can get over there, Paul?
Well, it's still feasible, Phil, because you can see the difference in the speed as we look at Ian Fagan here. The bunch are taking about 10 seconds a lap out of this chasing group, so this leading group, sorry, so it is still possible.
Well, it's certainly giving the crowd a lot to shout at. It's made a real good finale here in Birmingham. The race, by the way, has averaged its best average speed of the tour so far this afternoon, a shade over 25 miles an hour. Adrian Timis anxious to be the winner here again today. The driving force, a teammate, by the way, of Joey McLaughlin in the Peugeot team. And Timis now, having read the move well today, getting into this breakaway with these 4 other riders. Can he finish it off with a fine win? Szostek on the front. And behind Szostek, Henri Manders. Manders, for me, is the hot tip for the finish, because he hasn't done a lot of work here. His manager came up earlier on and sort of told him to slow it down, not overdo it. And by the way, it was a move noted by Willy de Bosche, the manager of the ADR team, who said to me, the Weinman guy isn't working, because Willy does speak rather good English.
Well, Phil, Henry Manders here, still in second place, is a very good rider to watch for this finish, because he spent a couple of years in the Super Confex team, and the tactics of Jan Ras have always been very good, so I think he's one of the riders to watch when we come into that last lap.
Well, it looked like Carl Smith trying to nip away, Paul, off the front of the group. New professional this year, part of the Royal Shafes team. And Miller keeping things in check in the white and red jersey at the front. And while the Fagor team would like this bunch not to make contact, others have other ideas. Szostek looking over his shoulder to see what they can see down the long finishing straight. And the main field winding the way out from the town hall into New Street now. Well-tried finishing circuit this over the years in the centre of the city of Birmingham, and it's seen some very dramatic results as well.
Well, Phil, a terrible thing for the riders on a circuit like this, especially as the bunch is closing down, as you can hear the race commentator all the way around on the PA system, and you know that the bunch is coming down behind you, and it's like having a running commentary on your own doom.
Yes, often when there's a plastic bag there and it appears to have got stuck on the back rider. Well, if it has, that's Manders, and it has. Well, that's very strange. This is a repeat of Paris-Roubaix this year, when it was Thomas Wegmuller who was brought to a halt. He stopped Manders, in fact. That's Merguialdi just dropped away there with the red top on. Szosder's realised it and accelerated. That's a tragedy. Mander in the distance there, serviced by the neutral service team, and now by his own team, and he's back in action. I think he may well have taken a new bike. Fagan's gone through on him, so the gap about 20 seconds he's lost, and now that's an absolute tragedy. Henri Manders has lost this race because of a plastic bag in his back wheel. These four riders will not feel at all sympathetic as they now contest the last lap or so of the race. Carl Smith here again trying to slip ahead of the field, and look at this, Szostek wants more action from Merguialdi.
As you can see, Merguialdi coming through here, but Johan Lammerts in second place, another Dutch rider who has spent a couple of years, several years with Peter Post in the Rally Panasonic team. In fact, in 1981 won the Tour of Flanders. He's another very good tactician, one to watch when we get to the finish.
Merguialdi of Spain from the BH team. Good to see them at last settling into this race. They had a thoroughly forgettable first 2 days, and it was feared at one time they mightn't be seeing this far in the race, but they are, and they're in this break. There in the distance is Manders and Fagan, and they're putting in a marvellous pursuit here, while at the front it's Timmis, and now it's Szostek goes, switches sharply across. Merguialdi tries to grab his wheel. Timmis realises it too, so too does Lammert, but they formed a threesome behind, and Szostek is continuing the attack. A very good move indeed.
A very good move by this first-year professional as he goes through with 1 lap to go. He's taken the most crucial time, the time when everybody's wondering, deciding where they're going to save a little bit for the sprint, and he's taken them down the back straight. And it's amazing to notice that he was the one who was the most nervous before. He was looking around to see where the bunch is going, where the bunch is coming from, and he's gone away now.
What a great time to break away. Willy Debosche will be uncontrollable tonight if he lands a double for the ADR team today. He said this morning he thought that the pottery he received in Stoke-on-Trent was the finest prize he'd ever seen in world cycling. Now he's got the chance here of doing the double in the Midlands. Well, we'll see. Szostek's gone clear at the moment. The other three have definitely taken up the chase, and that's rather spoiled the pursuit by Manders and Fagan, because they're now being pegged a little bit off the back. This is Szostek then, going clear at the moment. And look at the gap he's got. So Noel Szostek, 21 years of age, qualifies of course for the red jersey of Rob Holden, but too far behind overall to endanger Rob Holden's lead today. Szostek then slowing down a little bit now. Merguialdi is the rider from the Tour de France this year who's taking up the pursuit. It's getting ever so close now. The finish is in the distance here. Merguialdi's making contact, and we're looking at a lap rider on the left. Forget him, it's the man in the lime green we're watching. Here he is, Noel Szostek. It's looking as though he may have this now. He's got just about a kilometre to go to the finish. Why he's looking over his shoulder, he really should not do that. He wants to put his head down and go for home because he's in the lead. So Szostek, and I think he'll pop out of the crowd on the right of the picture. There he is, and look at this, Paul. Johan Lammerts has accelerated on a huge gear. He's got his back wheel. Johan Lammerts is going straight by him. Lammerts is going to make it first. Johan Lammert, and Szostek is fuming. He hits his handlebars. Well, he might. He lost that race, I think, rather than Lammert's winning it. But Johan Lammert, his first win as a professional for 2.5 years. The main field then filing in now, and the big sprint is on. McLaughlin again is taking the top place from the bunch over the line. That will be 7th place for Joey McLaughlin today, so he's still showing he is a man to be reckoned with in the big sprints. Let's have a look at that replay again. Lammert came from nowhere. He just took the dive, grabbed the wheel of Szostek, didn't waste hardly a second before he went for the inside, and Szostek was sold out here. But Lammert too had not very much more left, but he got the victory. Well, there we are, confirmation, a win for Holland this afternoon. Johan Lammert, Szostek of Belgium 2nd, Merguialdi was 3rd. But Joey McLaughlin keeps his lead in the green points jersey as he presented to this marvellous crowd here in Birmingham, and the crowd that seems to be following us all the way round. McLaughlin leads the points then, Elliott is 2nd, and Bichot is 3rd. Malcolm Elliott, the traditional champagne and the traditional drowning. He's done this since Newcastle this week, of all the press. The Lord Mayor of Birmingham there watching Malcolm Elliott. Here he is, top of the pile again. McLaughlin is 2nd, Yates is 3rd, and Roach is 4th. The penultimate day of this 668 miles race. The longest day in prospect, the hilliest day in prospect. We should see some decisions made today. Who better to ask then as to who will lead the Kellogg's Tour tonight than the riders themselves?
Well, I think it's such a long day today and anything can happen, and I really don't want to say.
I hope it's going to be me. A Fago rider.
Which one?
Wait and see.
I'd have a guess at it. I think Elliott will be leader tonight. Because number one, he have a very strong team, and number two, they're in a good position. The Fago team, they have 3 riders up there, so I think he will hold on to the jersey today.
I think it's going to be Malcolm Elliott, no troubles.
It's very difficult to say, but hopefully Malcolm Elliott will be. But there are so many riders still in contention that it's going to be very, very tight in Bristol tonight.
Some say Stephen Roach tonight.
They're liars. They know something I don't know.
Well, we'll know the answers in about 8 or 9 hours' time. Well, here we are, back in the start here in Birmingham. And it looks like wheel trouble already there for the world champion, Stephen Roach, as they roll away. And the last man onto his bicycle here, Jon-Erik Oostergaard from the Isoglass team. Over the flyover. This, I understand, was the very first flyover ever built in Britain, as we make our way out of Birmingham. Sean Kelly in early trouble. No need to hurry just yet, because despite the 151 miles today, a gentle meander of 10 miles first. And that, by the way, makes the day 161, of course, but the time only taken when this flag is pulled in, and it is now the official start of the day. And it seems while the Tour of Britain goes one way, there is a different type of tour going the other way today, with the steam locomotives heading to a rally. Steve Jones, the first rider to attack, and Jones is a local boy here from just outside of Birmingham, and this is causing reaction from Sean Yates. And Yates has been a strong man this week, and they've wiped up Steve Jones here. A little bit of a split forming. And this is the sprint in Henley and Arden, the TV time sprint. Malcolm Elliott taking 3 seconds bonus here, beating Wegmuller, and in fact that is wrong because Elliott was given the victory. Wegmuller was in 2nd place. The main field going by, not too far behind. And it looks now a little bit of sadness here because behind the field, the British champion Steve Jockin, with injuries which occurred a couple of days ago, is calling it a day. And that is sad because Jockin, in fact, when he came to Birmingham last year in the Kellogg's Tour, was the stage winner. Now down to Stratford, and the field still keeping itself together. The odd flurry of attacks coming and going, but nobody breaking away. Elliott's got himself 3 very valuable seconds at that first sprint. This is the 2nd TV time sprint, and we've got in the centre of the picture in the yellow there Walsham dropping away, but coming now in the white jersey and challenging him, in fact, is Mark Walsham. Nick Barnes in white, the TV times leader, is on top. Walsham 2nd, and Steve Jones was 3rd there, so that's very, very good news indeed for Barnes. Any racing cyclist knows the blue flag here indicates the very steep climb away from Broadway, Paul, is Fish Hill.
Yes, and this is the first real big counting climb today for the King of the Mountains. You can see the two contenders on the front there, Chris Lillywhite and Giannetti from the La Suisse Wyman team.
So it's a twisting climb, it's quite steep. We've got there in the centre of the picture in the half colours Chris Lillywhite, who was in the early attacks on this climb. This looks like Keith Reynolds, in fact, attacking very, very strongly, pulling away from the main field here. Lillywhite reacts very, very well indeed. Lillywhite takes over, and Stephen Hodge in the yellow almost fallen off there, but Hodge comes through on Lillywhite. Lillywhite still having a lot of fight in the mountain, despite the fact now he has really no hope of pulling off the overall championship. Here's the result of the first climb. Lillywhite wins it, Hodge is second, and Keith Reynolds a very good third place. And in the top three there, notably, wasn't the climbing leader, Giannetti. And there's a good vantage point for some here as they look out at the Kellogg's Tour. Steve Sefton coming now into Cheltenham. Mark Walsham, narrowly beaten in the one at Stratford, is in the lead of those two Bilton riders, being led out here well by his Bilton teammates. But watch this, because this is the white jersey of the leader, Nick Barnes. He said this morning he feels he's as quick as Walsham in the sprint finish. Well, let's see. Walsham's chasing him down here now as Barnes goes for the sprint. Walsham's into his slipstream. That's good for Mark Walsham. Walsham really is the fast sprinter, and Walsham comes over Nick Barnes. So this is a great competition now. Walsham gets it this time from Barnes. That's a 1-2 each way round so far today. This one's for Walsham, Barnes, and Sean Yates there gets a 1 second bonus. That competition, you know, is going to have a great finale in Westminster tomorrow. Sean Yates at the feeding stage, slipstream. That's good for Mark Walsham. Whole field together then, out of the feeding station now. There are in fact 2 feeding stations today because the race is such a long one. And now notice the incline of the trees in the distance there. This is Birdlip, a vicious climb away from Gloucestershire, the first category climb of the day. Joey McLaughlin, I would have thought, might want an attack here.
Well, Phil, this is a climb that in the past has been used in many races to launch an attack for winning breakaways.
Stephen Hodge leading Malcolm Elliott, Joey McLaughlin. We've had reports all day that there is an enormous crowd towards the top of this climb, by the way. It's a very narrow climb under the best of conditions. Frederic Vichot leading up on the group here. And Stephen Hodge, quite a climber this week, in second place, the Australian teammate of Sean Kelly in the Cass Sportlife team. Lillywhite also on the left of our picture, that familiar style when he's out of the saddle, swinging around on the bicycle. Also in the green there, Joey McLaughlin, and somebody beginning to move up too on the outside of the bunch here, trying to get up with the leaders. Slipped up a gear, continues the attack. This is an attack then going as one of the Zeb Peugeot riders puts in an attack in the trees. It looks like Henri Abadie, twice a winner of the King of the Mountains title this year in 2 of Europe's major races. And now Abadie is trying to go clear, and they seem to have let him go at the moment. Frankly, I'm not too sure they could do anything about it. Robert Miller at the front now to try and whip up the field here behind. And Giannetti on the far side in that white jersey, the leader of the King of the Mountains. Noticeably, though, we haven't seen too much of Sean Kelly today, and I really felt that Kelly was putting in a bid for this title. Giannetti, if he can gather some points on this climb, will be making safe that King of the Mountains competition, because that ends today. There's no hills tomorrow in the city of London.
Well, Phil, as you notice here, Malcolm Elliott is keeping a very close eye on Joey McLaughlin, because today's the day that Joey's going to try and surprise Malcolm, and there he's already marking his man.
Well, McLaughlin really has got to get rid of Elliott if he is going to win this Kellogg's Tour, and Elliott making sure McLaughlin doesn't get an inch. Still a little bit higher up the climb now. In the far distance over his shoulder is Gloucester, and Abadie, little look over his shoulder too, and the progress is slow but sweet as he makes his way up towards the summit of Birdlip, where we understand this marvellous crowd is awaiting. He's been quite a revelation this year, Abadie. Nobody really had heard of him until this year. He had a very good Tour de France, and now we've seen him in the action every day this week in the Kellogg's Tour. He's suffering now, though, as he tries to keep the rhythm high. Style of a climber, and it's working. He's going clear, and we're obviously getting near the summit, because the crowd line now is beginning to filter past this man, Henri Abadie. into the shade of the trees. Well, Paul, this is looking good.
Well, this is a good move by Aberdeen. There's the same kind of move that he did in the Tour de France on the third stage when he went clear and took a long time of he was away for a long time, and he earned himself the Mountains jersey for quite some days.
Well, here are the crowds in Britain. He could be climbing a stage now in the Tour de France. Let's just enjoy the atmosphere for a moment. Well, you saw those pictures, and I'm sure Aberdeen will have a memory of that, because a lot of people in France, especially the racing cyclists, believe that cycling has no following in Britain. Ho-ho! Well, over the top then. Aberdeen gets maximum points. He's no real challenger, though, to this man, Gianetti, in the King of the Mountains, and Gianetti now is riding well to try and score maximum points that's left behind, because his only rival here is Kelly. Kelly, as you can see, not scoring there on Birdlip. It's Aberdeen who gets the points. Gianetti now will be feeling a little bit safe in that competition. Now we're back with the leader. There's no real descent of Birdlip Hill. It climbs to a plateau. And now as we climb the second category hill here of Rodborough, this is a short climb, but you know, I think every bit as hard, if not harder, in fact, than the climb of Birdlip, which was given a first category rating. Judging by the face of this man, it's hurting a little bit as well. Very intelligent move this by the Z Peugeot team. Everybody's watching McLaughlin try and take a man from lower down the classification, send him away early and see what he can do. And right now he's doing it very, very well indeed.
Well, all eyes will be on Joey McLaughlin, because he is the highest placed of the Z Peugeot team overall, and the idea is to leapfrog people up the general classification. So that's what they've done with Henri Aberdeen today on what is expected to be the hardest day of the Tour of Britain, the day when everybody's going to try and take that the last crack at taking the jersey off Malcolm Elliott.
Well, at the back of the group here, looks to me like Serge Demir, who won the stage the other day into Liverpool, was in trouble there on the climb. But of course, his stage victory this week in the bag, and he won't be too worried about that today. He'll finish somewhere in the main field, that's for sure. By the way, we lost 2 riders this morning who didn't start the race. We've already had news that 3 have given up, so it looks like a day that 1 or 2 are going to drop out. 5 gone so far today, and so that's bringing the field down to 66 at the moment from the original 80 who started. Well, the Cotswolds are looking very tough today, Paul, and the weather itself is not very friendly either. We're going through quite heavy rainstorms, and it is not at all pleasant for what should be, for in the countryside, one of the nicest days. This is the group here with Stephen Roach now being left to make the work here to bring back Aberdeen. He knows the danger. He's in charge of Elliott's destiny right now, so he's riding for the Fagor team. And of course, McLaughlin playing the teammate now in second place.
Well, Joey McLaughlin up there in second place. He's not doing any work at all, and he's forcing the Fagor team to do all the work with the hope that they'll tire themselves out a little bit so that he can go over the top. And I think they're just pulling back here on Gianetti, who went away to climb to get the maximum climbers points again.
So Gianetti thinking of one thing, Aberdeen thinking of another. Gianetti, in fact, now on the climb of Rodborough. While further up, we have the man that's causing all of the trouble. He's going over the top of this Preem Hill. That's what they call it, with the white line and the white flag on the top. He is working very hard. That's a face full of determination here. He's not just out for the odd mountain point. He is out to stay out in front as long as possible, and if possible, all the way to the finish today. And Gianetti still finding the strength here to go well. He's made sure that today he came out fit and fighting on the early climbs. Over the top then, some idea of the height as we look across the fields there of the Cotswolds. One of my favourite parts of Great Britain is the Cotswolds, with its wonderful villages, its very short climbs, and for the touring cyclist, an absolute paradise. I'm not so sure about the racing cyclist though. On the top of Rodborough, then we've got Gianetti going over in second place. That's putting him in a very strong position now. Hodge gets the 3rd spot over the climb, and it's looking good now for Gianetti for that King of the Mountains title.
Well, it's definitely very good for Giannetti to pick up the points there, because looking back down the line there, I can't see Chris Lillywhite getting any points at all.
And look at this, it's hard work for Aberdeen. It's only creeping up, but it's now 37 seconds. It really isn't going anywhere at all. He's using a lot of energy to keep away from these riders. And this is Sean Yates here on the back of the chasing group. The main field continually now breaking up as we head on to Tippett's Hill.
Well, as we look back there, as Aberdeen's still in the front, he's really suffering if you look at his face here, but all he's thinking about is keeping away, so that hopefully the move will break up behind. And last time we saw that group, it looked as if there were only 20 riders in it, and Sean Yates was suffering a little bit at the back, so Malcolm Elliott is starting to become a little bit isolated, which is exactly what Joey McLaughlin and the Z Peugeot team want.
Well, it had to be today. What's up to Sean Kelly? He's pulled off the road there, called up his cast team. Kelly off his bike here on the climb, and most of the field will have seen him do that. So it looks as though he's getting a very quick change at the back of the race there. Possibly a puncture. The field know he's dropped down, and so they're going to put the pressure on even more now. This isn't going to help Aberdeen at all, because he will not be aware of what's happening back there, at the moment at least. He's just trying to gain as time he can. So over the top then of Tippett's Hill today. Another steep climb in the bag. He's really doing well in the mountains. And again, Paul, it's Giannetti. He's having an early start today and scoring well.
Well, he's gone for a long one again. He's pulling up all the points, because as Aberdeen's been away, he's finished second on two occasions. Aberdeen's too far down to be important. As we come up to the next one, he just accelerates a little bit away from Stephen Hodge there, I think it was, to get the maximum points again. So it looks as if he's taking a serious option on winning this competition overall.
Indeed he is, Paul, and I think he deserves it. He had a good challenge from Lillywhite early on, and more recently the late challenge by Sean Kelly, but today he really has come out fighting, and now he goes over the top of Tippett's Hill, his second place on the mountains today, all behind Aberdeen. There's confirmation, and Pensek is the rider in third spot. Well, Aberdeen now. This is the leader, though, who will soon be at the Cheddar Gorge, but at the moment he's still out heading for the city of Bath. Henry Aberdeen, who broke away on the climb of Birdlip, is now searching and has nearly got it. He wants 1 minute 3 seconds, in fact, to lead this race in yellow. Malcolm Elliott now and his Fagor team have to put in all of the effort. So this is a great move by Joey McLaughlin's Z Peugeot team, Paul.
Yes, but the pressure really is on the Fagor team. As we go back up to the front and look at that for what the lead is now, 1 minute 57, and Aberdeen's well into that yellow jersey. It's really firmly on his shoulders at the moment.
Well, it means now that for the first time since this race began that we have a new leader, but only on the road, of course. There's still time for Malcolm Elliott's team to repair the damage. Aberdeen then into Bath with a lead of approaching 2 minutes. And it looks to me as though he is in fact now beginning to suffer. Breaking away at the 53 miles point today, by the way, and it's a long way. He's planning on a 98-mile breakaway if he's going to stay away to the finish. This is the chasing group then, working hard at the sprint finish in the city of Bath. There's the confirmation of the TV time sprint. Nick Barnes, the sprint leader, taking that second place overall. And it looks as though Aberdeen is beginning to suffer now, or the reaction is rather rapid from the field. A minute 29, the gap now. Indeed, still in yellow, is 1 minute 3 seconds was his deficit this morning, since he left the beginning. Through the Roman city here now, as they thread the way across the Cotswolds, heading out towards the Mendips. The rain, by the way, has been coming down very heavily indeed. The final feed station here, Roger Leger, the manager of Aberdeen, passing up the food for the last 50 miles or so to the finish. A long way to go, Paul.
Well, on a stage as long as this, it's very important to get the bags as the leads come down now, as we're talking, Phil, to 105. He's still got the yellow jersey, but only by 2 seconds.
Yes, it might well be, Paul. He never really intended to get a lead of personal importance. It's more to make the other riders from the Fagor team chase him, and hopefully that they'll all come together, giving McLaughlin the springboard. Just look at these crowds here as we now race through Wells. Anybody that knows the cathedral here will also know the swans that live there too, and even toll the bell. And now we are leaving Wells onto the Cheddar Gorge, this beautiful climb. It starts very, very steeply indeed. He's holding on now because for the last few miles he's preserved all of his lead at 1 minute and 5 seconds. He's doing a marvellous job here for McLaughlin. He's giving him the springboard he should make use of on this climb, you know, as he now begins to suffer on the first category climb of the Cheddar Gorge. This is the last serious climb before Bristol will loom over the horizon. There is the main field, what's left of it today. Some 36 riders have formed to chase down, hopefully for them, Henri Abadie.
Yes, and as you can see, the group just going through the gorge there. It's been a fantastic move by the Z Peugeot team as we go back to Abadie, who's visibly suffering a little bit now. He's starting to rock his shoulders, but he's been out here for a long time. If he can get over the top of this climb of the Cheddar Gorge with a good 30 seconds lead, he can go down the descent, which is very, very dangerous, and maybe stay in front up to Bristol.
Well, maths was never my strong point, Paul, but I make it about 66 miles in the lead for Abadie at the moment, and he's never really got out of sight of this pack, you know. I mean, just on 2 minutes is nothing. That's how serious this pack has taken the attack by Abadie. Nobody was going to slip too far away from them. I'm so amazed, though, that this group has stayed together. These 13 riders seem to be proving totally inseparable rather, as they go up the climb here. They're watching each other's every move. Abadie now feeling all the pain of the Tour of Britain.
Well, as Sean Yates likes to describe the expression on this rider's face at the moment, he's got a full mask on. He's got the mask of pain as he's struggling to get up to the top of this climb. As we go back to the bunch, and you can see it's the Fagor team all the time keeping the pressure on, and there you've got Malcolm Elliott with Joey McLaughlin close in attendance, waiting for his moment to pounce if he can over the top of this climb.
Britain's own version there of the Angel of the Mountains, Robert Miller, setting the pace for the Fagor team, this little man who has so much power in his legs when the roads go steeply uphill. And our helicopter getting the best view, as always, as he looks down on another wonderful crowd that is following us around the country here all week. Marvellous crowds turning out, and we know you're enjoying the show because you keep on telling us, and we all appreciate that. Well, Abadie then on the climb. He is really now suffering quite considerably. News reaching us all the time that the lead is now beginning to tumble down rather rapidly. The last time check we've got, which wasn't long before this corner, was in fact just a shade over 30 seconds. So you see the attacks here now by the Fagor boys and by the PMS riders. That looks like Mike Doyle at the front here on the left of the picture. They too are trying to chase down the leader. No friends then for Abadie. He's now learning the full lonely life of being a professional bike rider on the Cheddar Gorge.
Well, as he comes up here, it's still the Fagor team with in close attendance Joey McLaughlin, watching, waiting for the time, because this is the springboard to try and surprise Malcolm Elliott, because Malcolm is slightly not quite as good as Joey on the climbs, and it's Joey's best place to try and attack him if he's going to.
Plenty of cheers from rather damp holidaymakers on this climb. I don't mind the riders getting wet, but I do feel sorry for somebody on holiday as they stand on the side of the Cheddar Gorge, this most beautiful part of Britain, in the rain. This is Malcolm Elliott now then. It's unusual to see Elliott on the attack on the climb, but he's proving this week that he is very, very strong on these climbs. And again, McLaughlin now coming up on his shoulder, Paul.
Well, these are the two most important men for us at the moment. There, Joey is in fact having the pace dictated to him by Malcolm, as they've always, as the best rule in the book is the best form of defence is attack, and that's exactly what Malcolm's doing. He's dominating his own pace to Joey. Joey's trying to keep up through the inside, but there's such a large crowd up here that he's having trouble staying there.
I would have thought, Paul, that this is proving to us that Joey hasn't quite got the edge here on Elliott, because really, with Abadie now coming rapidly back to this group, if I'd have been Joey as Abadie was caught, I would try to put in the attack, because obviously that's the time to go. No more hills left.
Well, it's got to be, if Joey's going to launch the attack, it's got to be before the top of this climb, because afterwards we've got a very dangerous descent and then the run into Bristol. I would think, though, that Malcolm was looking very, very confident here. He's got Sean Yates, who's done an incredible ride today, and he's probably the rider who's ridden the most on the front of this Tour of Britain this year.
Absolutely right. I thought you almost said the Tour de France there, but that was last month, Paul. It must be Britain this week. Abadie then, being caught all the time, but he's done everything possible here to give Joey McLaughlin his chance, and I know that McLaughlin will appreciate that. The strongman Yates now, the whole of the Fagor boys, as this climb comes towards its end, they must be feeling now full of confidence.
Well, obviously, Phil, if you look, in fact, I can actually see the difference in the speed here as Sean Yates is motoring up this climb. There's a visible difference in the speed of the two groups. Aberdee's been away for some 40-50 miles now. He's beginning to weaken, with Sean Yates putting the turbo into action, dragging Robert Miller and Malcolm Elliott there in third place. This is the Fagor team, the team that we've seen at the front of the Tour of Britain almost since the first day.
Yes, you've got to vote them the most outstanding players of the match, as it were, because Sean Yates has done a sterling job with Miller and, of course, Stephen Roach, and not to mention Malcolm Elliott. But this rider's done the sterling work today, in the lead now for approaching 70 miles. He's tried to win this race the hard way, and for a while he was the overall race leader on the road, and the only reason he isn't now is because the Fagor team have put in the effort required of them to bring him back. He took them on and they've responded. They're catching now all the time. The last time check we've had is 20 seconds now to Aberdeen, so all the way up this climb they are bringing him back. We're over the steep slopes of the Cheddar Gorge now, but this climb goes on for some way yet.
Well, Aberdee's starting to get to the easier part of the climb, and if he can get over the top, 20 seconds clear, that's all he needs. He stands a better chance on the descent.
Yates is continuing here to set a tempo that no one else can follow. Robert Miller content to ride in his slipstream. He's had the most marvellous season this year, Sean Yates, winning stages in all of the world's major races.
Well, to come back to the tactical point of view as we go back to Aberdeen here, the best tactic that the Fagor team can adopt now is, before they were chasing to try and pull Aberdeen back because he was a threat, but now that he's only 20 seconds in front, they will change the tactics slightly and keep the speed high enough, which is exactly what Sean Yates is doing, to prevent Joy McLaughlin from attacking.
Well, if you've got the legs, it's all right, I suppose, Paul, but if you're suffering at the back of that bunch, as I know one or two riders are, because one man who has been detached at the back is a teammate of Sean Yates and the Fagor boys, and that's Bernard Richard, the fifth member of the Fagor team. He was up the front early on today, but now he is in fact losing contact with this. Now let's have a look up the road here from the Fagors on the front, panning along by our helicopter. I don't know how he ever finds the riders, quite frankly, but there he is in the distance, and I suppose it's very difficult to assess, but that can't be more than 15 seconds up the road for Aberdeen. He might just survive to take the prize on top of the Cheddar Gorge. He certainly deserves that. He's won all of the climbs today if he does that, and that's been a marvellous day out for him.
Well, as you look at him now, Phil, it looks as if he's resigned himself slightly to being caught, because he's just turning the gear over. He's not fighting the gear as he was before when we were watching him. He's just turning the gears over to try and stay away and get that mountains prize at the top here.
Well, if this is just turning the gears over, Paul, it really looks to me as though he's going through all sorts of pain barriers at the moment. Out now, away from the Cheddar Gorge, the lights behind Aberdeen, I'm afraid, are saying it's not much longer for him now. The rain is almost off, but the roads are extremely damp. And this has been quite a bad day of rain today. In fact, the green flag you may have just caught a glimpse of, 200 metres to go to the prize at the top of the gorge. The big field are now at the green flag, while Aberdeen is just about going to hit the white one, and that will give him a lead of about 150 yards over the main field. So Aberdeen, Paul, I don't think now can stay away all the way to Bristol.
Well, I think they're going to catch Aberdeen the next few moments as we watch here, and now's the time that if Joy McLaughlin is going to, now's the time he's got to launch this attack. If he can't do it now, he has one last chance, and that's on the finishing circuit. As I'm looking now down at the result, Aberdeen is there, Gianetti is second place, so it looks as if he's definitely going to take this King of the Mountains competition.
Sean Kelly quite clearly deciding today he was not going to participate. Stephen Hodge has put in a challenge, and I think he may well have done enough now to climb over teammate Kelly into second place overall. No doubt then, Gianetti, the King of the Mountains today, and it's the end too here now for Henri Aberdeen. Certainly our hero today. I put him down as the best break of the whole race so far. He took them on, he took the yellow jersey for a while. He's lost it now because there's Malcolm Elliott on his shoulder. He looks across at the wheel there of Gianetti. There's Gianetti, now the winner-elect of the King of the Mountains competition. No more hills left of note in this race. A couple on the finishing circuit in Bristol, and he won't worry about those. Elliott now thinking too that maybe that yellow jersey is safe, at least for today, and the big battle will be in Westminster tomorrow. Well, the pressure again very, very much on, Paul. That's a long, thin line down there. The wind coming from the right of the riders, pinning them in the left-hand corner.
And as we look down here, what a trio of riders. We've got Malcolm Elliott, who's just gone there, Joey McLaughlin, followed by Sean Kelly, and just on his wheel, Stephen Roach. And look at the face on Joey McLaughlin. It's not the face of Joey's big days, and maybe the lack of races that he's had this year with all his problems has put him a little bit behind Malcolm Elliott, who's come out of the Tour de France with a little bit more strength in his legs.
Absolutely, and that's great credit to Joey McLaughlin, who came to this race from injury and has responded so well as the defending champion that he's still very much in with a chance of snatching this event.
And coming to the front, look at this. This is Sean Yates. He's the man who's done everything that he can today for Malcolm Elliott. But look at the face on him. That's not the face of Sean. That's what Sean would say is a full mask.
So Sean Yates then selling himself here for his teammate Malcolm Elliott. And now we've got the descents to come, and it looks to me as though we have a problem here. It looks like the team manager there, the team manager of the ADR team, or the Isoglass team in fact, is in trouble, and one or two riders we understand have fallen at the head of the field. 4 riders have gone down. No serious injury as far as we know, but that is Jan-Erik Oostergaard, who seems to be the worst delayed. And the riders now rushing into the city of Bristol, yet another city on this rapid tour of Britain. Adrian Timmis on the front here, the rider who tried so hard to win in Birmingham yesterday, and he managed a very, very good 4th place. Now he's bringing the Z Peugeot team onto the circuit, and still in this group, Joey McLaughlin in the green jersey. These are the riders who've come together, regrouped after that crash, coming away from the Mendip Hills.
Well, Phil, it's still the Z Peugeot team trying to break the stranglehold that Malcolm Elliott has had on this race since the start. And there they are, Adrian Timmis going through with Ronan Ponsek in 2nd place there. It's a really hard circuit around here in Bristol with that little climb up Park Street and Queen Street. And this is where, if Joey's going to try and take it away from Malcolm, that's where the attacks have got to come.
And again, a marvellous city centre crowd despite the atrocious conditions today. It's been very cold, very wet, and Robert Miller has been finding it very painful too. There he is on the far right of the picture, the green jersey of Joey McLaughlin, the points leader in this race, climbing the hill here. And McLaughlin hasn't yet managed to break the iron grip of the Fagor team. He started the day just 19 seconds adrift of Malcolm Elliott. Remember, Elliott, right at the beginning of the day, won that 3-second time bonus at Henley. So it now means, of course, he leads overall by 22 seconds.
And there is Sean Yates moving up there into 2nd place. Sean has been an incredible rider in this year's Tour of Britain. He's at the moment 3rd overall in this tour, and he hasn't even thought about his own overall placing, because all he's thinking about is the team effort. Adrian Timmis on the front there for Z Peugeot, trying to keep the pace up so that 1 or 2 of these riders can try and attack and break away, because everybody's so close together at the moment.
Well, the Peugeot team was certainly the most outstanding French team in this year's Tour de France. They rode it so well, as they're on now 2 laps to go to the finish. It's quite a long circuit here in the city of Bristol, and one of the nicest too, because it's very, very hard indeed, especially with this climb on every circuit. The red jersey there of Rod Holden, who still survives. Well, survives really isn't the word. And look at the leg there of Keith Reynolds. He's one of the fallers out on the course earlier, and he's now coming through the finish detached by something like 3 or 4 minutes.
Well, it's been an incredible tour by Keith Reynolds, because he's really come to his own in this tour, and he's showing the class that he'd already showed last year in his first year as a professional.
He's also showing the courage now, Paul, because up in the action at Stoke-on-Trent, where he was 3rd, he's now having to limp in a long way behind the field. Madio here attacking with determination on the climb, and leaving Sean Yates and the rest of them, and the big crowd stretching right the way up this hill. It really is a difficult sprint on the climb.
Well, this is a good place for Mark Madio to attack as well, because he's won a lot of races in his professional career by going away in the last 5-6 kilometres, and as he goes away over the climb here, it's going to put a lot of pressure on the rest of the riders. But it looks as if he gets to the top here as if he's easing up a little bit, although I'm saying that it's very, very hard over the top of this climb. But Madio himself is only about 45 seconds down on Malcolm Elliott.
There are so many riders can still win this race as they start more attacks now. Madio has gone back into the group here, but it's the Cass riders on the attack now. And is this Stephen Hodge? And yes, indeed it is. So Hodge now trying. He's moved up, by the way, to second overall in the King of the Mountains. He's jumped over Sean Kelly. Gianetti, of course, now confirmed in that competition.
And it's going to get harder and harder on this circuit now for the Fagor team to chase, because they've been chasing all day. The Z Peugeot sent that breakaway with Albadi, and now you see it's the Z Peugeot team actually taking up the racing. And it's fortunately, this is a lucky move for the Fagor team, because they must be very, very tired, because Sean Yates, for instance, there has probably been on the front for something like 100 miles of this 151-mile stage.
Well, the Fagors, we keep talking about them. They've been the team of the race, and certainly the team of today. They've kept this race together for Malcolm Elliott. There's a 10 seconds time bonus for the winner today. The first 4 riders receive bonuses, and with Elliott leading by just those 22 seconds, of course, a 10-second slice off the top for McLaughlin today. There he is in that green jersey in 3rd place. Would set him up nicely when we go to Westminster tomorrow for the big finale. And that is probably why it's the Z Peugeot riders here now, trying to keep this race together in the hope that McLaughlin in 3rd place there will come up with the goods in the sprint.
And there's McLaughlin, as you said, in 3rd place, but he's always being shadowed by Malcolm Elliott. Malcolm is feeling really as if he's only got one man to watch in this race. Stephen Roach is back a little bit as they come through with the bell with 1 lap to go. This is the time when, if any attacks are going to come, they'll come on this lap now on the climb.
Ronan Pensek on the front then for Joey McLaughlin now. Pensek's chances went at Stoke-on-Trent when his bike frame snapped. He lost then over 10 minutes and all hope of victory. That man was 7th in the Tour de France. Now he's keeping this race hopefully together, keeping the speed high, so that Joey McLaughlin can come out of the bottom corner there and try and do what he did so successfully in Liverpool, and that's beat Malcolm Elliott.
Well, as they come up the climb here, you can see Sean Yates moving up to keep the pace high, because he knows what the danger is. He wants to make sure that the pace is just that little bit too high for Joey McLaughlin, who's moved into 2nd place. But Yates is keeping the pace so high, he's actually riding away from the field.
Just look at this man, Sean Yates. He's ripping away from McLaughlin. McLaughlin recovering a little bit now to try and get back into the race, but he's having to fight very hard. This is going to hurt Joey McLaughlin. This is going to take a little bit of the sting out of his tail, because these riders today, you know, if you count the 10 miles that they did to the race start proper today, have ridden over 160 miles and been in the saddle for over 8 hours. And still they're going with all the strength that they go at the end of every stage. And still it's Sean Yates who we see at the front. Look at that face, Paul. Yates really giving it.
Unbelievable the way Sean's ridden, but that kind of move that he's just done there is absolutely and utterly demoralising for the rest, because Sean is riding here as a teammate when really he's as strong as any of the leaders, and that must be a blow to Joey McLaughlin's morale when he went up that climb there. And look at the face on Joey here. This is really a mask on his face today as well. I think today must be the day of the masks.
Well, it's rather a cool one there on Malcolm Elliott. Here's the big man himself, the animal many people call him. He's such a strong rider. Now it's John Clay here having a dig. In fact, I think it was Darrell Webster who was having a dig there. And it looks to me as though Webster, who you may see the dirt down the side of his jersey there, he was on the floor in that crash in the men dips just a few moments ago. But Yates, having none of it, brings this race back. If there was a vote on the man of the race over this week, Sean Yates would certainly take that. The most aggressive rider, the man who's holding the defence all the time. And now this looks like Thomas Wegmuller trying, as he tries to go for home. We're inside the final kilometre here. Wegmuller has put in an attack. He's a rider that everybody's spoken about all day, expecting something. They really thought that Wegmuller was going to be the man today to go ahead all the way across the Cotswolds and the men dips, and it wasn't. But now he's going now before the crowd. Thomas Wegmuller from Switzerland, the rider who lost Paris-Roubaix this year, the greatest classic in the world, because of a plastic bag in his back wheel. He's going to win this one. Thomas Wegmuller has jumped clear now. Wegmuller takes the victory on the line. I'm not surprised, he's delighted. 3 wins last year. That's the first win of the year for him, and he's absolutely delighted, and we'll have a look at that again. Thomas Wegmuller then wins the sprint. This is how he did it. He jumped away in the last kilometre of the stage, and he was the man with the most strength left in those legs after 151 miles today. So Sean Kelly's Cass Sportlife team are going clear at last with a victory they've been searching for. And full of determination, Paul, as he drives it home towards the line. And the second and third place is also taken by the CAS team with Jean Manfrin. There's the confirmation. And Sean Kelly himself in third. Gaillon fourth. Elliott was fifth. And Frank Hoster from Belgium was sixth. Malcolm Elliott then still keeps himself on top thanks to the efforts of men like Stephen Roach.
Malcolm, the end of a very punishing day's racing for you. Long and hard and very wet weather.
Yeah, it's been an extremely long day, and I want to say thanks. Well, I don't really know quite how to say thanks to the extent to my teammates for the enormous amount of work they've done over these last few days. And today, 150 miles, they've been on the front for most of that, and they've just gone on day after day after day like robots. And,
but you yourself made a very positive move at Henley and Arden, winning that sprint.
Yeah, it wasn't one of those things. It wasn't planned in any way. It just came about. Steve Jones attacked, and I think I seem to remember another rider who was slightly dangerous went with him. So I had to go too, just to cover the move. And we finished up with a bit of a split, and we saw the 1 mile to go to the TV time sprint. And I thought, well, we'll just drive it until we get past the sprint, and I'll take 3 more seconds, which would, make me slightly more comfortable.
So at last Malcolm Elliott speaks with confidence, the man who should have attacked, still in the green jersey, Joey McLaughlin, but only just because in fact they're equal on top in the points competition with 76 points each. But it's Elliott who gets the champagne again.
There was,
and there is the overall situation. Malcolm Elliott leads McLaughlin by 22, Wegmuller third, Sean Yates fourth, Kelly fifth.
And the wind was in, it was a headwind.
And the man who won today is Giannetti. He's the king of the mountains now. 104 points from Hodge and Kelly. Well, the circuit here in the city of Westminster is a traditional one in world-class cycling over these last few years. The circuit itself being a mile and starting just opposite Downing Street in Whitehall. Then it is Gilbert Duclos-Lazal now on the bringing the riders through. And it is now 2 full laps of the circuit to the last TV time sprint. And you know, this is amazing because the rider who's missed this breakaway is Mark Walsham. He won't be too unhappy about that because Nick Barnes isn't here either, and that would mean that if this breakaway stays away for the next 2 laps, then Mark Walsham will be the overall winner of the TV time sprint, and that would be tremendous. And another rider that Paul Sherwen has noted is not in this leading group is Sean Kelly. Kelly, who was 5th overall, but his teammate Stephen Hodge is, and so too, as far as we can ascertain, thumbs up from Sherwen, is Thomas Wegmuller. So Wegmuller is in the break. Sean Kelly is deciding that he's going to have to play now a teammate and let this breakaway go. And the other man, as far as we know, we haven't caught sight of him at all for the last 2 minutes or so, Stephen Roach, the world champion. I can see Roach now in the main field. Roach is definitely not in this leading group, so the split then is going to change, certainly, the lower places of this race. This is a very, very interesting break indeed now. Elliott, McLaughlin, Wegmuller, Yates, the top 4 men are in this breakaway. Not in the breakaway, Kelly and Stephen Roach, and also Darrell Webster. So the next 3 men overall are out of the breakaway. This is going to make quite a few changes below the top 4 men, if of course it succeeds. Duclos-Lazal doing the work. Steve Jones looking over his shoulders. So too Joey McLaughlin. If they start to finesse, the bunch will be on them in a flash. They're leaving all of the work here, Paul, to Duclos-Lazal. I would have expected to see 1 or 2 others more interested.
Well, I don't think the Fago team are too bothered at all because they're not really worried about a break. As long as they're concerned, the race can stay together. Duclos-Lazal trying to drag this break away for Joey McLaughlin because from a small group like this, they thought they could isolate Malcolm Elliott, but he's still got Sean Yates, Robert Miller and Bernard Richard has still managed to scrape up there as well.
Yeah, he's an amazing man, Paul, isn't he? He gives you the impression he's worn out, and yet he's in all the action. There he is, Richard. And we've got Yates there too, and also Robert Miller. It's be all left to Gilbert Duclos-Lazal. You heard the klaxon. This is now the sprint lap for the last of the TV time sprints. Next time through the finishing line at the end of lap 49, the start of lap number 50. That will be the first 3 riders getting time bonuses, 3, 2 and 1 second towards their overall positions, and that could well be crucial. So we would expect Paul now to see Sean Yates intruding in this sprint if he can. So too the man who must try and score, Thomas Wegmuller. He is just 1 second behind Yates in the overall classification. There are 3 seconds at stake for the winner, 2 and 1 on the line at the end of this lap. Still, it's the Z Peugeot boys being left to do all of the work at the front. McLaughlin in the green jersey in 5th position. The Fago boys, 2nd and 3rd, Yates and Miller. It's Yates we'd want to see try to take this sprint. We would also expect to see Thomas Wegmuller in the action, but plenty of time to go yet as we look down again onto the embankment where the riders are. Then they'll swing up towards the line as we watch the Peugeot boys keeping the pace high, trying to get something out of this for Joey McLaughlin, who needs the 3 seconds to go into the last few laps of this race with any chance at all of stealing the few seconds he needs to win this race overall.
And the teams who'll be doing this chasing in the back now are going to be the PMS Doors team. As you look down the embankment there, you can just about see behind the motorbike Mike Doyle on the front trying to pull this together, because Darragh Webster, who's ridden superbly all week to stay up in contention, has missed this little move, so they'll want to bring it right back together again.
Well, Hodge is on the front. Exactly 3 o'clock on Big Ben as we will now turn here hard right to approach the finish of the last TV time sprint. I can tell you now without any problem at all, the overall winner of that competition will be Mark Walsham, because the top 2 men in the sprint series are not here. They're in the main field. This is a race for seconds towards the overall classification here, and Wegmuller is having a go for it, but the attack on the left from the boy in white is Vichot. Vichot is also going, Wegmuller is yellow, and on the line Frank Hoster. Hoster gets it. It was very, very close for second place. It looked to me as though Richard may have, rather Yates may have got that, and that I think will have stitched it up for Sean Yates, who should now be happy in 3rd place overall. Frank Hoster got the 3 seconds big bonus. The most crucial thing, I suppose, is that Malcolm Elliott didn't contest it, and neither did Joey McLaughlin, which seems to me now to be putting all the onus on McLaughlin, and Malcolm Elliott set fair to win the Kellogg's Tour of Britain. 58 laps covered. And look at this now, all of the Peugeot boys on the front in the white jerseys. Bernard Richard there, still tucked in 2nd place. Sean Kelly, Paul, the man you've mentioned, moved up into the 3rd slot. You might be right.
Well, he had his team, worked for his team yesterday with Thomas Wegmuller slipping away towards the end, and he let Montferrand finish 2nd just in front of him. Maybe today he's going to get them all together, get them all sorted out, and lead him out for a big bunch sprint.
Well, the day of the sprinters is not far away now, because the men who wanted to drop these riders and win alone, they've had their chance. They were unable to do it. Joey McLaughlin has never found himself in a position to attack Malcolm Elliott. That is what Elliott hoped would happen. He made sure of that by keeping his Fago riders right on the front and keeping the pace too high for anybody to break clear in the finishing straights today. Now the men in yellow, the Cass riders, are trying now to work hard to bring Sean Kelly to the fore. Kelly's having to do a lot of this work himself, though. And remember that split early on that almost cost Kelly a high placing. It came back together by courtesy of the hard chase from the Bilton team. Now they may well have innocently set up Sean Kelly for victory today. Other sprinters here who could do well. Thomas Wegmuller himself, but I don't think he's fast enough to take on men like Mark Walsham and, of course, Malcolm Elliott, who could well go out here on a high note.
Well, as you can see, the team tactics taking place again. You've got the 2 Fago riders on the front, keeping the speed very high. But in 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th position, you've got the Cass team. They're moving up there now. The 3 riders in front will be weak. As soon as these 2 riders weaken a little bit, they'll take over to try and place Sean Kelly into orbit. But keeping a very close eye on Sean Kelly, and just behind him there is Joey McLaughlin in the green. Just on his right-hand shoulder is Mark Walsham, and not very far away is Malcolm Elliott.
Well, Walsham already won at the very last opportunity, the TV Time Sprint Series. That was the competition he came here for, taking it away from Nick Barnes this afternoon here in the city of Westminster. And Joey McLaughlin, he needs to finish a place at least in front of Malcolm Elliott in the big sprint, because that will give him the green jersey of this race on points. Malcolm Elliott now, he's been in a precarious position all week, is now in the strongest position of the lot. All he has to do is finish this race in this bunch, and the yellow jersey, the winner's yellow jersey, and the £10,000 car is his.
It looks like Marcel Gaillon tried to jump away there, but also possibly I think that's Aberdeen having another go, unless it's Ronan Ponsek. It's Ronan Ponsek, and Thomas Wegmuller doing the job there, pulling him straight back again. As you can see, all the cast riders there in the first 7 or 8 positions.
Down to the embankment for the penultimate time. French rider Ronan Ponsek, who had trouble on the road to Stoke that left him out of the overall race for the yellow jersey, now working for McLaughlin in his team, as again we're being treated to the CAS Sport Life team here, putting on the pressure once more. There's no doubt about it now, Paul Sherwen, they are trying to get this race for Sean Kelly and give him the victory that he's wanted. Sean Kelly, 7 times a winner of the great Paris-Nice race in March, winner of the Tour of Spain, now trying to get victory here today.
Well, everyone can see that Sean Kelly has decided he really wants to go for this, because it's almost a fight to get his wheel behind. It looks like Monfrein going through there, leading them out, fighting for Sean Kelly's wheel. There are 1 or 2 riders. I can see Frank Hoster there from the ADR team with the yellow stripe down the middle of his crash hat, trying to get there on the left-hand side. They're trying to get onto Sean Kelly's wheel. Everybody is taking Kelly as their favourite, so maybe he's not going to be far away.
And Kelly himself is doing a lot of work here, as all the riders from the CAS team. Kelly's in 3rd place here in the black crash helmet. He's in a perfect position for the lead out, and the team know it as well, because when they come through this time, the bell, there it is, 1 lap to go, as this massive crowd see 4 riders from the CAS team all in the front. And yesterday they showed their form. They finished 1st, 2nd and 3rd. It was Wegmuller, Jean, Manfrein and Kelly in that order, and that is more or less the order we have them in here now as they go off on this final lap. And Frank Hoster on the left of our picture here, 4th in line, the first rider in the lime green, there he is, Frank Hoster, a man who could well win this sprint. He won the final stage of the Tour de France once in Paris. He won that race on points. Frank Hoster has enjoyed today. We've seen him in the action. He's 5th in line now. He's latched on to the CAS Express here of 4 riders in yellow.
Well, that's what it's all about. You've got to look for your favourite. You can see them all jostling for position behind Kelly, but look at Wegmuller. Yesterday he won the stage. Today he's dedicating himself to Sean Kelly, and the fight there behind to get Kelly's wheel. There's Mark Walsham, Joey McLaughlin, Malcolm Elliott, all fighting, because he's the man that they want to follow.
Walsham in the white jersey is the British Circuit Race champion. That's the white jersey on the right of our picture, dodging in and out the yellow boys. He knows that Sean Kelly he knows exactly the tactics of the CAS team. He knows very well that they're trying to get Sean Kelly to the finish, where Kelly can try and take on the sprint. And Walsham's the boy in white there, and he's been pushed out of it by Frank Hoster. Hoster's gone on to the next express train going through on the inside. This looks like Lammert's now, who's starting to come through from the Toshiba team. A quick change of tactics now. Kelly is being pushed into 7th place here. There's Kelly going round on the shoulder of Joey McLaughlin. McLaughlin now coming in the action. Nothing seen yet of Malcolm Elliott, the yellow jersey. He may well have said, I'm keeping out of this one. Oh, look at that on the corner. And there's Walsham's on the barrier. Mark Walsham received the bad end of the switch on the corner there, as McLaughlin took it wide, and that certainly wasn't the fault of Mark Walsham. He's out of it now. We're back with the leaders. Jacques Hanegraaff this is. Hanegraaff going for the flag, and McLaughlin coming to. Kelly in 2nd place. Something's happened to Kelly. Kelly's got 2nd place. Hanegraaff wins it. Walsham, unfortunately, out of the final sprint. What a finish that was, as Jacques Hanegraaff gets it on the line. Congratulations for him. Kelly absolutely fuming, because Kelly too was out of the sprint when they came round that bottom end of the corner. Well, let's have a look at that again. Watch the boy in green, and knocked off his line there by Johan Lammerts, and in turn Walsham hits the bales with a terrible collision there, and I'm sure he was lining up there for a possible win. Well, Mark Walsham still has to finish to claim the TV Times leader's jersey. He must cross the line. Here we can see the winner here, Jacques Hanegraaff. By the way, a few years ago, at 20 years of age, he sued the Dutch Cycling Federation to make them let him turn professional. Since then, he's won stages in the Tour de France. Now he adds the Kellogg's Tour of Britain final stage. There's confirmation of the result, a win for Hanegraaff. Second, Sean Kelly, very disappointed. Third, Henri Manders. Fourth, McLaughlin, and fifth, Dave Miller. And the big crowd here, I wonder how Malcolm Elliott feels.
Well, I am, yeah. It's been something that I've waited all week for, and many times I've had my doubts that it was going to finish this way, and even today it just took so long. It seemed to drag. I was counting every single minute.
It wasn't too difficult today. You had the support there. There weren't too many breakaways.
No, we had things fairly well under control, and also it worked to our advantage, the fact that Percy Biltons were going for the hotspot, the TV time sprints, and that they were wanting to keep it together as well. They weren't wanting any breaks going away, so they were, in effect, were working towards our ends as well.
Was there a specific time during the week when you thought, yes, I've definitely won it?
No, only as I crossed the line there. You can never ever think that. Never ever think that you've won it, because I mean, even today, even on the last lap, if I'd been involved in a crash, and you know, I could have lost the small amount of time the advantage which I held, and it would have been all over.
So off for the celebrations now?
Yeah, I think so. Quiet drink somewhere, but I think the lads are probably too smashed. They've worked like slaves this week, and they probably just want to go home and rest.
Great support. All sorts of stories about the world champion not being too happy with Fago, but I think you and Team Fago are quite happy together.
Well, I think the essential thing is team morale, regardless of who the actual sponsor is. If the morale amongst the riders themselves is good, then you've got a good team.
Well, the morale was there today and will be there tonight as well. Thanks very much indeed, Malcolm. Congratulations once again.
And Mark Walsham still finishing here, having to fight his way through this enormous crowd. He must cross the line, that's all, to claim his winner's TV time sprint jersey. And there it is, he's made it safely. Well done, Mark Walsham. A few scars of victory on his knee there. There's confirmation of that sprint. Mark Walsham on top, beating Nick Barnes, the leader throughout. Malcolm Elliott was third. And the points race, a consolation prize for Joey McLaughlin indeed, because he wins the race on points, beating Malcolm Elliott and Sean Kelly. And the big Waterford piece of crystal for the race winner, Malcolm Elliott, the leader from start to finish. He's the man who's opened the champagne every day this week. Well done, Malcolm Elliott, beating McLaughlin, Kelly, Yates and Thomas Wegmuller. And let's not forget two other major winners in the Kellogg's Tour of Britain. On my left here, Rob Holden, who led in the under-23 classification right from the start to the very end. And Rob, the youngest man in the race, his first year as a pro. He's just 20 years of age. Well done, Rob. His Percy Bilton teammate, who became a leader in the TV time sprint competition right this very day. He almost lost it in the very finish because he crashed. He got up. He had to cross the line to take his reward. Well done to you, Mark Walsham. Well, they are the major winners in the Kellogg's Tour, and among the £10,000 first prize for Malcolm Elliott is that car, and of course his 32-piece suite of beautiful Waterford crystal. Malcolm Elliott now off on his final lap of honour. He's led this race from start to finish. Our memories of the big crowds that began in the city of Newcastle, followed us over the North Yorkshire moors, went on through Lancashire, down through the Cheddar Gorge until we arrived here today to this wonderful crowd in the city of Westminster. It's been a great race for many reasons. We'll leave you now with our memories of the week. Goodbye.